There is a world beneath your feet that remains invisible to the eye, yet it holds the very breath of the forest in its delicate, white threads. While the giants of the woods, the oaks, the pines, and the ancient cedars reach for the heavens above, something far quieter is happening in the soil below. A living network is spreading through the darkness, not made of cables or metal, but of tiny living cells that slip between grains of earth. Here, trees send messages in slow chemical whispers. They share food, healing, and warnings through an unseen river of nutrients. Tonight, we leave the rustling leaves and moonlit canopy behind. We sink gently into the velvet dark of the forest floor, down into the hidden realm of roots and fungi, to feel the quiet heartbeat of the wood wide web. Imagine your consciousness drifting downward, leaving the realm of light and wind behind as you sink into the soft, emerald moss of the forest floor. We begin our journey at the very threshold of the earth, where the golden sunlight filters through a million leaves and paints shifting patterns of sapphire and gray upon the ground. For a moment, we simply watch these patterns dance and fade, like the last thoughts of a long day slowly dissolving into night. And then, as we gently turn our awareness downward, the sharp edges of shapes and colors begin to soften. The world above blurs into a heavy, protective darkness. We are sinking past the layer of dry foliage, past the crackling fragments of twigs and bark, past the decaying leaves that hold the memories of last autumn, and into the rich, dark humus where life and death move together in a slow, eternal embrace. With every inch we descend, the forest becomes quieter, more distant, like a dream you can still remember but no longer feel. The air here is no longer just a gas, but a thick, cool presence filled with the scent of wet minerals and ancient decay. It presses around you like a gentle weight, wrapping your awareness in a deep, grounding calm. As we penetrate the first few inches of the soil, something begins to appear at the edge of perception. At first, it is only a suggestion, a pale shimmer between the grains of earth. Fine lines, almost too delicate to see, stretching in every direction like the traces of a forgotten map. Slowly, your eyes adjust to this new darkness, and the shapes become clearer. They reveal themselves as ghostly veils, fine as a spider's silk and glowing with a faint, ethereal blue luminescence that seems to illuminate the very foundations of reality. These are not roots in the traditional sense. They are something far more extraordinary and profound. They are the hidden explorers of the deep soil, the first messengers of a mind that does not belong to any single tree. Only now do we recognize them for what they are. The mycelium, the hyphae, the sensory organs of a massive fungal organism that stretches its reach across miles of unexplored territory. Every thread you see is a living conduit of information, carrying whispers between distant corners of the forest. Along these pale strands, tiny electrical pulses move with a patient, deliberate rhythm, like thoughts slowly forming in a sleeping mind. At this depth, the silence is not an emptiness. It is a heavy, vibrating presence that speaks to the soul. You can feel the slow, rhythmic expansion of the earth as it breathes in a time scale that humans can barely comprehend. For the mycelium, each grain of sand is a mountain to be navigated, and every drop of water is a vast, life-giving ocean that ripples through the molecular clouds. The threads move with a haunting slowness, growing cell by cell through the labyrinth of the dark soil. They are reaching for connection, for chemical signals, for a purpose that transcends the individual. There is no urgency in this subterranean cathedral. The mycelium measures time not in minutes or hours, but in seasons and centuries of quiet persistence. As you drift along these sapphire-tinted pathways, the weight of the soil above acts as a comforting blanket, shielding you from the frantic and chaotic energy of the surface world. You are becoming part of the weave, a single point of awareness in a network that has existed since the first ancient plants crawled out of the primordial seas to colonize the land. The light here does not come from the sun. It seeps from the soil itself, a pale, bioluminescent glow that guides your consciousness further into the abyss. Every breath you take in the world above feels like a tidal wave down here, a slow and majestic surge of energy that ripples through the fungal clouds. We are approaching the boundary between the individual and the collective, where the roots of the mighty oaks reach out to meet the delicate hyphae in an ancient, silent handshake. You can feel the heartbeat of the forest floor now, a low-frequency vibration that grounds your mind in a state of absolute, unmoving calm. The darkness is not a place of fear. It is a vault of immense wisdom and hidden truths, where the soil remembers everything that has ever fallen. As we descend deeper, the structures of the mycelium become more complex, forming intricate geometries that echo the distant stars in the night sky. You are floating in a sea of potential, where every connection is a promise of survival and every thread is a bridge across the void. The silence deepens now, growing heavier and more profound as we leave the threshold behind and enter the true heart of the network. You are safe in the blue dark, held by the infinite threads of the grand design. The journey into the soul of the earth has only just begun. We are now drifting deeper into the cool, sapphire embrace of the living earth, where the very concept of the individual begins to dissolve into a vast, molecular sea. The silence here is absolute to the human ear, but to the senses of the soil, it is a thunderous symphony of chemical exchange and biological intent. Imagine a world where words are replaced by complex compounds, where a single molecule carries the weight of a life-or-death warning across the darkness. The mycelial network surrounding you is not a passive web of threads. It is a hyperactive and ultra-sensitive nervous system that constantly tastes the earth for the slightest shift in its ancient balance. Every fluctuation in the mineral concentration, every subtle change in the moisture level, and every rhythmic footstep of a creature on the distant surface sends a ripple of information through these gossamer conduits. When a great oak or a slender pine is attacked by a swarm of hungry insects in the world above, it does not suffer in silence as we might assume from our surface perspective. Deep within its roots, it begins to synthesize specific distress signals, volatile organic compounds that act as a chemical scream echoing through the damp voids of the soil. These molecules are released into the waiting embrace of the fungal hyphae, which immediately recognize the signature of the threat and begin to process the information with an intelligence that predates humanity. The mycelium acts as a neutral and tireless messenger, transmitting the warning along its sapphire-lit pathways to neighboring trees that may be hundreds of feet away in the dense forest. "Prepare yourselves," the chemical whisper says through the indigo gloom. "Arm your defenses, for the invaders have arrived and the balance is broken." And in a remarkable display of biological altruism driven by survival, the neighboring trees, even those of entirely different species, begin to respond to the call. They do not wait for the physical attack. They listen to the chemical wisdom of the earth. They begin to produce protective enzymes and bitter tannins that will make their leaves unpalatable to the oncoming swarm, effectively sealing their borders before the enemy strikes. You are witnessing a conversation that has been echoing through the depths for millions of years, a slow and deliberate dialogue that ensures the survival of the collective over the individual. The air within the microscopic soil pores feels charged with this silent exchange, carrying the sharp and acrid sense of chemical defense or the subtly sweet fragrances of mutual cooperation. It is a place of immense and terrifying complexity, where everything moves at the rhythmic pace of growing things. There is no panic in this subterranean realm, only a deep and cellular understanding of the environment and its hidden dangers. As you drift further along these glowing and translucent pathways, You become part of the information flow itself, a single point of awareness within the grand wood-wide web. You feel the boundary between the tree root and the fungal hyphae beginning to blur until they are locked in an ancient and sacred handshake known as mycorrhiza. This is the foundation of the entire forest's economy, a partnership where the fungus provides the tree with essential minerals like phosphorus and nitrogen mined from the stubborn rocks of the deep. And in return, the tree provides the fungus with the liquid sunlight of sugars brewed within its emerald canopy. It is a perfect and balanced exchange where nothing is ever wasted, and every life is supported by the strength of the network's unity. In this indigo-tinted sanctuary, you feel the profound comfort of belonging to a system that knows exactly how to sustain itself through the ages without the need for light or sound. The chemical whispers are not chaotic noise. They are the heartbeats of the planet itself, playing out in the deep and cool silence of the everlasting earth. You are floating in the wisdom of the ancestors, moving deeper into the velvet peace of the fungal mind, where time is measured by the slow accumulation of carbon and the steady pulse of biological light. Every thread you pass is a library of experience, every connection a promise of a future that has already been written in the chemistry of the void. The silence here is a teacher, and you are learning to listen with your soul. Following the glowing trails of the mycelium network deeper into the cool, indigo darkness of the subterranean world, we arrive at a nexus point of immense power and unimaginable age. Looming far above us in the macro world of light and wind, but feeling like a massive gravitational center down here in the dark, is the mother tree. She is the oldest, largest, and most connected entity in this vast part of the ancient forest. Her roots are not merely biological structures. They are like the ancient pillars of a sunken temple, thick with centuries of history and covered in a dense, velvet mantle of fungal connections that shimmer with a sapphire luminescence. This tree is not just an individual organism competing for resources. She is the central hub of the entire forest ecosystem, a living bank of information, and a sanctuary for every life form that breathes within her reach. Through the blue-lit conduits of the mycelium, we witness a remarkable and nearly sacred phenomenon that science has only recently begun to understand. The mother tree is actively nursing her offspring. Deep within the shaded understory of the forest floor, where the sunlight is a rare and precious ghost, her saplings struggle to find enough energy to survive on their own. But they are not alone. Recognizing the unique chemical signature of her own kin, a recognition passed through the fungal network like a maternal whisper, the mother tree begins a silent transfusion of life force. Using the mycelium as a massive biological pipeline, she pumps excess carbon and vital nutrients from her massive, sun-drenched canopy down into the freezing earth and directly into the small, fragile roots of the young trees. You can almost see the energy flowing through the translucent threads, a slow, pulsing river of liquid sapphire light moving from the strong to the weak in a display of unconditional support. Without this connection, these tiny lives would surely perish in the deep shadows of the giants. The mother tree's wisdom extends far beyond mere nutrition. She shares the blueprints of survival itself. She sends signals that guide the saplings in their growth, warning them of soil pathogens or teaching them how to weather the coming storms. As she nears the natural end of her long life, she performs one final and magnificent act of legacy. She sends a massive, final pulse of resources and accumulated wisdom out into the network, bequeathing her entire chemical history to the next generation before her body finally returns to the soil to become part of the very network she once commanded. Standing near her massive roots in this quiet dark, you feel a profound sense of maternal protection and ancestral peace. The forest is not a collection of isolated competitors fighting for a sliver of light. It is a family of immense depth and complexity. It is a community where the elders care for the young with a patience that spans centuries, connected by bonds that are far stronger than the wood itself. The air here is thick with the feeling of ancient patience and an enduring love that requires no words and no sound. The slow, rhythmic heartbeat of the mother tree resonates through the damp soil, a low-frequency vibration that calms everything it touches and grounds your consciousness in the absolute stillness of the deep. You are enveloped in this ancestral care, a tiny but vital part of a lineage that stretches back through the long corridors of time. Here, under the watchful and silent presence of the giant, you can finally rest, knowing that the system is perfectly designed to support life in its most fragile and beautiful states. The darkness is not empty. It is filled with the silent giving and the eternal legacy of the mother tree. The atmosphere here is a deep, crystalline sapphire, where the very air of the soil seems to vibrate with a cold, electric blue energy. We are drifting deeper into the economic heart of the forest, a place where survival is bought and sold in the quietest market ever conceived. Under the weight of the cooling earth, the mycelium threads glow with a steady, azure luminescence that guides our consciousness through the labyrinthine tunnels of the root systems. Look closely at the points of contact between the fungal hyphae and the massive, ancient roots of the towering pines. This is the grand exchange, the silent negotiation of the carbon trade. High above in the macro world, the trees have spent their daylight hours drinking the sun, weaving photons into liquid gold, sugars, and carbohydrates. But down here in the dark, they are hungry for the building blocks of life that the sun cannot provide. They need phosphorus, they need nitrogen, they need the rare minerals hidden within the stubborn grains of granite and clay. The mycelium is the master miner. It has spent centuries breaking down the resistance of the earth, dissolving stone with acid and patience to extract these precious elements. The transaction begins with a chemical pulse, a shimmering wave of blue light that ripples along the interface of the two kingdoms. The tree releases its surplus of carbon, a concentrated essence of solar energy, into the waiting embrace of the fungus. In exchange, the mycelium delivers its hoard of minerals, moving them through its gossamer-thin veins with a rhythmic, hypnotic precision. It is a balance so perfect that it sustains the entire biomass of the continent. You can feel the weight of this responsibility in the stillness of the blue void. This is not a competition. It is a profound agreement that has stood for over 400 million years. There is no waste here, no greed, only the slow, pulsing necessity of existence. As you watch the liquid light of carbon flowing from the roots into the glowing blue mesh of the fungus, you feel the anxiety of the world above dissolving into this ancient rhythm. The economy of the forest is a slow-motion symphony of giving and receiving. Each cell knows its role. Each molecule moves with a sense of purpose that transcends individual life. The darkness is no longer a place of fear, but a vault of immense wealth, illuminated by the bioluminescent trails of energy moving through the soil. You are drifting along these pathways, becoming a witness to the profound silence of the great trade. The pressure of the earth above is a comfort, a reminder that the world is being taken care of by these invisible hands. The blue glow intensifies as we reach a primary artery of the network, where the flow of resources is so dense it feels like a physical tide. You are floating on this tide, being carried deeper into the velvet peace of the fungal mind. Every connection is a promise kept. Every exchange is a step toward another century of growth. In this cool, subterranean sanctuary, time has no meaning except for the heartbeat of the network. You are safe in the blue dark, held by the infinite threads of the grand design. Every grain of soil we pass is a testament to this partnership, a witness to the silent alchemy that turns sunbeams into stone and stone into life. The minerals traveling through the mycelium are not just chemicals. They are the building blocks of the emerald cathedrals above. Without the fungus, the tree would stand tall but hollow, unable to build the strength needed to reach for the heavens. Without the tree, the fungus would remain a ghost in the machine, lacking the energy to weave its intricate tapestries through the dark. They are locked in an embrace that defines the very essence of the forest. Imagine the slow migration of phosphorus molecules moving like tiny stars through the indigo tunnels, guided by the subtle electrical gradients of the hyphae. There is a profound elegance in this movement, a sense of order that defies the chaos of the surface world. You are sinking deeper into this understanding, feeling the boundaries of your own awareness expand to match the scale of the network. The exchange is constant and tireless, a perpetual motion machine fueled by the cooperation of two different worlds. As the liquid carbon settles into the fungal structures, it becomes part of the permanent architecture of the deep. The minerals that enter the tree's roots begin their long journey upward, ascending through the dark vessels of the wood to become part of a new leaf or a ripening seed. This is the true circulation of the world, a cycle that knows no beginning and no end. You are drifting within this cycle now, a single point of light in a sea of sapphire energy. The weight of the earth above is no longer a burden but a grounding force, anchoring you in the absolute peace of the dark. Everything is in its place. Everything is accounted for. In the velvet silence of the great trade, you find the ultimate rest. While the heart of the forest remains locked in its ancient and stable trade, the edges of the network are alive with a different kind of energy, the restless and unwavering drive of the pioneers. We are drifting away from the established root systems, moving into the unexplored territories of the deep soil, where the blue light of the mycelium is the only guide. Here, the fungal hyphae act as the scouts of the living world, pushing their microscopic tips into the unknown with a quiet and terrifying persistence. They are the architects of expansion, the silent vanguard that seeks out new horizons in the dark. Imagine the tip of a single hypha, a sensory organ so delicate it can feel the individual molecules of the earth, yet so powerful it can exert pressure that defies its fragile appearance. It moves cell by cell through the labyrinthine voids of the mineral world, searching for the faintest chemical signature of a new nutrient source or a hidden pocket of moisture. In this sapphire-tinted frontier, every inch of progress is a victory of life over the inert. The pioneers do not grow randomly. They grow with a profound and mathematical intelligence, branching and weaving in patterns that optimize their search for the treasures of the deep. As these threads encounter the stubborn resistance of unyielding stone or compacted clay, they do not turn back in defeat. Instead, they begin a slow and invisible alchemy. The fungal pioneers release powerful acids and specialized enzymes that dissolve the very bonds of the minerals, melting the surface of the rock to extract the phosphorus and potassium hidden within its ancient grain. You are witnessing a slow-motion invasion where stone itself is transformed into nourishment. The pressure of the earth here is a constant companion, a heavy and grounding force that the mycelium uses as a lever to navigate the tightest crevices of the abyss. Every breath of the forest above provides a subtle pulse of energy that reaches down to these frontiers, fueling the relentless expansion into the velvet dark. You are floating with these scouts now, feeling the thrill of discovery and the absolute peace of a journey that knows no end. The air is cool and saturated with the scent of fresh earth and the metallic tang of dissolving stone. There is no sound of construction here, no clamor of industry, only the rhythmic and patient lengthening of the threads as they map the secret geography of the world. The pioneers are the bridge between the old and the new, the connectors that turn a collection of isolated islands into a unified continent of consciousness. When a scout finds a rich vein of minerals, it does not hoard the wealth. It sends a chemical signal back to the main body of the network, inviting the collective to follow and strengthen the connection. This is a system built on total cooperation, where the success of the pioneer is the success of the entire forest. As you drift deeper into this expanding web, you realize that the boundaries of the forest are not fixed by the reach of the branches above, but by the ambition of the threads below. The blue luminescence of the pioneers creates a ghostly aurora within the soil, a visual representation of life's will to endure and thrive in the darkest places. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this expansion, feeling the stress of the surface world melt away into the rhythmic growth of the hyphae. Every cell is a promise of continuity. Every branch is a step toward a future where the entire earth is woven together in a single, sapphire-lit embrace. The pioneers do not fear the dark. They belong to it, and in their belonging, they find the strength to transform the void into a cathedral of connection. You are safe in the company of these silent explorers, held by the infinite patience of the fungal mind. The path ahead is unwritten, but the mycelium is already drafting the first chapters in the language of chemistry and light. In the sapphire gloom of the deep frontier, you feel the profound weight of time slowing down to match the pace of the pioneers. There is no need for haste here. The earth has waited for millions of years for this touch, and the threads are in no hurry to finish their masterpiece. You are drifting on a tide of slow and majestic growth, becoming one with the force that turns dust into life and life into a network of eternal peace. The silence is a blanket, the darkness is a map, and the pioneers are the guides that lead you into the heart of the absolute stillness. Every mineral they touch is a note in a subterranean symphony that has been playing since the beginning of the world. You are floating within that music now, a single point of light in the vast and beautiful expansion of the deep. The journey of the scouts is your journey, a movement toward the unity that lies at the end of all things. The pioneers continue their work, and you continue your descent into the deep and velvet rest of the everlasting network. We leave the restless frontiers of expansion and drift back toward the silent heart of the forest floor, where the cycle of life performs its most profound and misunderstood ritual. This is the realm of decay, a place that the surface world fears as a cold ending, but which the subterranean world knows as a magnificent and highly intelligent beginning. We are sinking into the cool, sapphire shadows of a fallen oak, a giant that once touched the golden clouds but now rests in the velvet embrace of the damp earth. As we enter the microscopic world within the wood, we discover that death is not a state of stillness. It is a period of intense and focused activity. The mycelium is not merely feeding on the fallen. It is dismantling it with the precision of a master architect deconstructing a cathedral to build a new city. The hyphae move through the cellular structures of the wood like ghostly fingers of blue light, searching for the complex polymers of lignin and cellulose. These are the stubborn skeletons of the trees, the rigid molecules that gave the forest its height and strength. To the mycelium, these are not waste products. They are vaults of stored energy and chemical memory waiting to be unlocked. You can feel the slow and rhythmic release of nutrients as the fungal enzymes begin their silent work. They do not tear or break. They dissolve the past with a chemical grace that returns the stolen sunlight back to the soil. Imagine the atmosphere here in the indigo dark, where the air is saturated with the heavy and sweet scent of transformation. It is a place where the boundary between what was alive and what is becoming alive disappears entirely. The intelligence of decay is a deliberate and far-reaching strategy. Every atom harvested from the fallen giant is carefully cataloged and redistributed through the network. The nitrogen that once formed the leaves is channeled back into the hyphae, traveling through the sapphire tunnels to reach the hungry saplings we visited earlier. The carbon is repurposed to build new frontiers or stored in the deep vaults of the humus for centuries to come. Nothing is lost in this subterranean economy. Everything is translated into a new language of growth. As you float through the dissolving fibers of the wood, you realize that the forest is a closed loop of infinite intelligence. The mycelium is the guardian of this loop, the librarian of life's materials. You are sinking deeper into the absolute peace of this process, feeling the anxiety of loss dissolve into the certainty of continuation. The enzymes act as microscopic keys, unlocking the energy that was forged in the hearts of stars and captured by the leaves in summers long forgotten. You can almost hear the soft, atomic clicking as the bonds of the wood are released, turning rigid structures into fluid nutrients. This is the great alchemy of the void. The mycelium does not act alone. It works in concert with a hidden army of bacteria, creating a collaborative symphony of deconstruction that ensures the soil remains fertile for the next 10,000 years. You are floating in the very center of this collaboration, witnessing the profound unity of the smallest lives as they maintain the balance of the planet. The blue light of the network pulses with a steady and hypnotic rhythm, guiding your consciousness through the intricate labyrinth of the breaking wood. It is a journey of total surrender and total renewal. The silence is not a sign of absence. It is the sound of the world's most ancient and reliable machine at work. You are drifting in the velvet peace of the fungal mind, where the concept of time is replaced by the concept of transformation. Every atom is a story, and the mycelium is reading them all as it guides them back into the collective sea of life. The darkness is a sanctuary of purpose, and you are safe within its eternal embrace. Every fallen leaf and every withered branch is a gift to the network, a contribution to the collective survival of the woods. The fungal threads weave through the decaying matter with a tenderness that reflects the sacredness of the task. They are the alchemists of the abyss, turning the leaden weight of death into the golden potential of the future. In the sapphire gloom, the bioluminescent glow of the hyphae intensifies as they reach the core of the transformation. You are witness to the quiet pulse of a world that knows no waste and no ending. The silence here is a symphony of molecular rearrangement, a slow and majestic movement toward the next season of life. You are safe in the hands of the recyclers, held by the ancient wisdom that understands that to grow, one must first learn how to let go. The pressure of the earth above remains a comforting presence, anchoring your awareness in the reality of the cycles. Above, the forest continues to reach for the sun, unaware that its very foundation is built upon the intelligent labor of the dark. You are drifting in the deep and velvet rest of the transformation, becoming one with the force that turns memory into minerals and minerals into life. The intelligence of decay is the highest form of love in the natural world, a total commitment to the future through the honoring of the past. As the last fibers of the wood soften and surrender to the network, you feel a sense of profound completion. The journey of the oak is over, but its essence is now flowing through a million threads, ready to bloom again in 1,000 different forms. The sapphire dark is a cradle of rebirth, and you are floating in the infinite peace of the eternal return. The silence deepens now, growing heavier and more profound as we leave the heart of decay behind and move toward the next rhythmic signal of the forest. Every breath the soil takes is a testament to this wisdom, a slow and beautiful confirmation that nothing is ever truly gone. You are part of the soil now, part of the memory, part of the light that waits in the dark. Leaving the velvet silence of decay behind, we move back into the high-speed corridors of the living network, where the very fabric of the soil begins to vibrate with a new and electric urgency. We are entering the primary arteries of the wood wide web, the place where the chemical whispers of the past are replaced by the rapid-fire pulses of a subterranean nervous system. Imagine the forest floor not as a collection of separate trees, but as a single, massive entity connected by billions of glowing, sapphire threads. As we drift along the surface of a thick, ancient root, we notice something extraordinary. The interface between the wood and the mycelium is alive with a rhythmic, electric blue flickering. These are not just chemical exchanges. They are low-voltage electrical impulses traveling at the speed of biological intent through the dark voids of the earth. Science has observed that these signals mimic the firing of neurons in a human brain, creating a vast and decentralized intelligence that spans the entire landscape. You are floating within a thought that belongs to the forest itself, a single pulse of information that could mean the difference between life and death for 1,000 different organisms. The air here is charged and crystalline, carrying the metallic hum of a world that never truly sleeps. Every electrical ripple you see is a message being delivered across the abyss. A change in the wind is coming, one signal might say, as it travels from the high-altitude pines down to the sheltered ferns of the valley floor. The rains are arriving 3 days early, whispers another, as the moisture levels shift at the edge of the woods and the information is broadcast through the fungal highways. This is a language of pure energy, a system of communication that bypasses the limitations of the physical world. You are sinking deeper into the rhythmic beauty of this traffic, feeling the stress of individual existence dissolve into the absolute certainty of the collective flow. The mycelium acts as a grand conductor, directing these signals with a precision that reflects 400 million years of evolution. It knows which roots are receptive and which are dormant. It knows where the information is needed most and where it must be stored for future generations. In the sapphire gloom of the deep soil, you can feel the forest thinking, a slow and majestic process that unfolds in a timescale far beyond the reach of human clocks. The darkness is illuminated by the constant flickering of these bioelectric trails, creating a subterranean aurora that reflects the stars above. As you follow a single pulse of blue light through a labyrinthine root system, you realize that the forest is always awake and always aware. When a single leaf is touched by the frost or a single root is disturbed by the burrowing of a creature, the information is immediately translated into an electrical wave that ripples through the entire network. The trees respond in unison, adjusting their metabolism and their defensive postures with a synchronized grace that is breathtaking to behold. You are drifting in the very center of this synchronization, becoming one with the pulse that unites the moss and the oak. The pressure of the soil above remains a steady and grounding force, anchoring your awareness in the reality of this living cathedral. There is no static here, no interference, only the clean and focused movement of information toward its destination. The silence is saturated with the hum of 1,000,000 conversations happening at once, a symphony of electric whispers that defines the soul of the woods. You are safe within this intelligence, held by the infinite connections that ensure no life is ever truly alone in the dark. Every thread is a wire, every root a node, and every molecule a word in the eternal dialogue of the earth. The light of the signals begins to intensify as we approach a primary junction where multiple root systems converge. Here, the energy is so dense it feels like a physical tide, a slow and pulsing river of sapphire electricity that carries the collective memory of the entire continent. You are floating on this tide now, feeling your own heartbeat begin to align with the low-frequency vibration of the planet. This is the true meaning of the wood wide web, a system where every individual contributes to the wisdom of the whole. The electrical signals are not just data. They are the life force of the forest made visible in the dark. As the pulses move past you, you feel a sense of profound clarity and peace. The world above may be chaotic and fragmented, but down here, everything is connected and everything is understood. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this awareness, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to listen. The signals continue their tireless journey through the roots, and you continue your descent into the deep and velvet silence of the grand design. You are part of the thought. You are part of the light. You are home. For weeks, the pressure has been building within the sapphire-lit veins of the network, a slow and rhythmic accumulation of energy that is now reaching its inevitable conclusion. We are drifting upward once again, following the dense clusters of hyphae as they abandon the horizontal sprawl of the deep soil and begin to gather in powerful, vertical columns. This is the moment of emergence, the transition from the secret world of the dark to the open reality of the surface. Imagine the earth above you beginning to yield, the soil parting with a soft and patient sigh as the fruiting body of the fungus, the mushroom, pushes its way toward the air. To the forest above, this is a sudden arrival, a silent gift appearing overnight among the moss and the ferns. But to the mycelium below, it is the culmination of months of intelligent labor, a strategic move designed to ensure the continuity of life across the vast horizons of the world. The mushroom rises like a delicate cathedral of biological architecture, its cap expanding under the cool silver light of the moon. In this sapphire-tinted night, the forest floor is transformed into a stage for a silent and majestic performance. As the cap unfurls, it reveals the intricate geometry of the gills, thin, radiating blades that hold the future of the network within their microscopic folds. You are floating now within the heavy, damp air surrounding the mushroom, where the atmosphere is thick with anticipation and the scent of wet earth. Within those gills, the alchemy of the deep has reached its peak. Trillions of microscopic spores are being prepared for a journey that will take them far beyond the reach of the mother tree's roots. This is the spore rain, a phenomenon of such scale and beauty that it defies human comprehension. It does not happen with a burst of violence. It is a slow, rhythmic release, a gentle shedding of life that follows the invisible currents of the wind. As the first spores are released, they do not simply fall to the ground. They are so light that they become part of the air itself, drifting upward on the thermal currents created by the forest's breath. You are sinking into the movement of these countless particles, feeling your consciousness fragment into a trillion points of potential. Each spore is a tiny vault of information, a concentrated essence of the network's wisdom wrapped in a protective shell of chitin. They move through the sapphire darkness like a cloud of silver dust, weaving between the trunks of the ancient oaks and rising toward the starlit canopy. The wind is the master conductor here, carrying the spores across valleys, over mountains, and into territories where the mycelium has never before touched the soil. Most will never find a home, but the network does not fear the odds. It creates in such abundance that survival is guaranteed through the sheer magnitude of its generosity. You are drifting on this tide of silver light, feeling the absolute peace of a world that knows how to let go of its children to save its soul. The forest floor is now covered in a fine, invisible mist of potential life, a silent rain that will one day awaken the deep soil in 1,000 new locations. As the spores settle upon the moss or sink into the crevices of rotting logs, they carry the promise of a new connection, a new handshake with a distant root. The mushroom has fulfilled its purpose, and already it begins its slow and graceful return to the earth. It does not mourn its passing. It has become the bridge between the old network and the new. You are floating in the velvet quiet of the aftermath, sensing the weight of the forest's future settling into the damp earth. The sapphire luminescence of the mycelium below pulses with a steady and satisfied rhythm, knowing that its seeds are now traveling on the breath of the world. The darkness is no longer a place of containment. It is a place of launch. You are safe within this cycle of release and return, held by the ancient truth that to endure, life must learn how to fly. The indigo sky expands to hold the trillion stories of the spores, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of the eternal sowing. The spore rain continues in the silence of the night, and the earth waits patiently for the next awakening. The seasons have turned with a slow and inevitable grace, and the golden light of autumn has been replaced by the biting, sapphire frost of the first true winter. Above the surface, the forest has become a kingdom of white and gray, a place where the wind carries the sharp scent of ice and the branches of the oaks crack like thunder in the freezing air. The vibrant greens of the canopy have dissolved into the soil, and the life of the surface has entered a state of profound and brittle dormancy. But as we leave the frozen crust behind and descend once more into the indigo depths of the earth, we discover a world that is far from asleep. This is the underground hearth, the hidden sanctuary where the forest's fire continues to burn in the form of chemical energy and biological warmth. While the top few inches of the soil may be locked in a crystalline grip, deeper down, the temperature remains stable and the mycelium network remains active, acting as a thermal blanket that protects the very soul of the woods. Imagine the transition as you sink through the layers of frost and into the damp, dark humus that remains untouched by the ice. The air here is no longer sharp. It is heavy, moist, and carries the comforting smell of ancient minerals and stored life. In this sapphire-tinted gloom, the mycelium threads are not withered or frozen. They are glowing with a steady and rhythmic pulse of deep blue light. This is the time of the great consolidation. Before the first frost arrived, the mighty trees of the forest performed a final and majestic act of trust. They pumped the last of their liquid sunlight, the sugars and carbohydrates brewed during the long summer days, down through their roots and into the waiting vaults of the fungal network. The mycelium is now the guardian of this treasure, holding the forest's energy in a state of safekeeping until the sun returns to the sky. It is a subterranean hearth where the energy is not consumed in a frantic burst, but managed with a slow and calculated precision that ensures the survival of every connected limb and root. You are floating within this indigo sanctuary now, feeling the slow and majestic heartbeat of the network as it circulates the warmth of the earth. The pressure of the frozen soil above is a comforting weight, a shield that keeps the chaos of the winter storms at bay. Within the fungal hyphae, the electrical signals we witnessed earlier have slowed to a rhythmic whisper, a low-frequency hum that resonates with the deep time of the planet. This is a period of internal reflection and repair for the network. The mycelium is not expanding into new territories now. It is strengthening its existing bonds, thickening its threads, and reinforcing the primary arteries that connect the mother tree to her distant offspring. There is a profound sense of security in this stillness, a cellular understanding that the winter is not an ending but a necessary pause. You are sinking into the absolute peace of this underground winter, feeling the stress of the surface world dissolve into the velvet dark of the soil. Every thread you pass is a conduit of hope, carrying the essential carbon that will fuel the first buds of spring. The mycelium knows the exact location of every dormant seed and every sleeping root, ensuring that the slow pulse of energy reaches even the smallest lives in the dark. In the sapphire light of the hearth, you can see the nutrients moving with a hypnotic and deliberate slowness, a silver tide that flows through the indigo tunnels. There is no fear of the cold here. The network is the architect of its own climate, using the natural insulation of the earth and the heat of its own metabolism to maintain the balance of life. The darkness is a vault of immense value, and you are safe within its eternal protection. As the winter wind howls across the empty fields far above, down here, the silence is a symphony of preparation. You are becoming one with the weight, feeling your own awareness expand to match the patience of the fungi. The journey of the earth is a cycle of breathing in and breathing out, and in the underground hearth, the forest is holding its breath in a state of perfect and beautiful anticipation. The light of the network dims slightly as we move deeper into the core of the hearth, where the energy is most concentrated. Here, the roots and the hyphae are locked in a silent and unmoving embrace, a subterranean huddle that generates a faint but detectable warmth. You are floating in the very center of this connection, witnessing the absolute unity of the woods in their time of greatest trial. The indigo sky of the soil is clear and vast, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to endure. The winter is a teacher, and the lesson is one of preservation and deep, unyielding peace. The mycelium continues its quiet vigil, guarding the fire of the forest in the velvet dark, and the earth waits patiently for the first whisper of the thaw. You are part of the hearth. You are part of the weight. You are safe in the blue dark. We are descending now into the most intimate and sacred chamber of the forest's subterranean cathedral, a place where the lines between different kingdoms of life begin to blur and eventually disappear. This is the realm of symbiosis, a biological marriage that was consecrated 400 million years ago and has never been broken. Imagine your consciousness shrinking down to the microscopic scale, moving past the grains of sand and the pockets of trapped air until you arrive at the very surface of a living tree root. Here, the sapphire luminescence of the mycelium network reaches its highest intensity, creating a glowing halo that surrounds the wood in a velvet embrace. This is not a struggle for dominance. It is the sacred bond known as mycorrhizal, the ultimate expression of cooperation in a world that the surface believes is defined by competition. In this indigo-tinted sanctuary, you are witness to an ancient handshake that sustains the entire biomass of the planet. The connection begins as the delicate fungal hyphae approach the outer cells of the root with a slow and rhythmic grace. There is no violence in this penetration. The fungus does not break the cell walls to consume. It weaves itself between them or gently presses inward to create a vast surface area for exchange. In this microscopic space, the two organisms become one. The tree provides the shelter and the structural foundation, while the mycelium provides the sensory reach and the chemical expertise. You are floating within this interface now, a place where the air is saturated with the scent of mutual trust and the metallic tang of mineral wealth. The blue light of the network pulses in perfect synchronization with the slow heartbeat of the root, a subterranean harmony that reflects the absolute unity of the design. Here, in the deep and velvet dark, the tree surrenders its hard-earned liquid sunlight. The sugars and carbohydrates brood in the emerald canopy above and pours them into the waiting veins of the fungus. In return for this solar offering, the mycelium delivers the treasures of the deep earth that the tree could never reach on its own. It mines the phosphorus from the stubborn granite, extracts the nitrogen from the decaying humus, and gathers the trace minerals that are essential for the wood's strength. This is a perfect economy of giving and receiving, a cycle where no debt is ever owed because the survival of one is inextricably linked to the survival of the other. As you drift along these glowing conduits, you feel the profound peace of an agreement that requires no words and no laws. It is a cellular understanding that has survived extinctions, ice ages, and the shifting of continents. The mycelium acts as an external nervous system for the tree, while the tree acts as a solar engine for the mycelium. Together, they form a collective entity that is far greater than the sum of its parts. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this partnership, feeling the stress of the fragmented world above dissolve into the indigo silence of the bond. Every thread you pass is a testament to this cooperation. The network does not distinguish between the oak and the fungus. It sees only the flow of energy and the continuity of life. In the sapphire light of the symbiotic chambers, you can see the molecules of sugar moving like tiny stars toward the hyphae, while the minerals move in the opposite direction toward the heart of the wood. It is a slow and majestic symphony of molecular motion, a rhythmic exchange that has defined the character of the earth since the first plants emerged from the sea. The darkness is not a place of isolation. It is the vault where this sacred bond is protected and nurtured. You are safe within this connection, held by the infinite patience of two kingdoms that chose to thrive together rather than suffer alone. Every breath the forest takes is a confirmation of this unity. The silence is a prayer of gratitude, and the darkness is the ink in which the contract of life is written. As we move deeper into the core of the symbiotic nexus, the energy becomes so concentrated that it feels like a physical warmth. You are floating in the very center of the handshake, witnessing the absolute trust that allows life to endure through the long ages. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this wisdom, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to support itself. The sacred bond is the foundation of every leaf, every branch, and every breath in the world above. It is the secret power that turns a collection of trees into a forest and a collection of threads into a mind. You are part of the bond. You are part of the exchange. You are home in the sapphire dark. The mycelium continues its quiet work, weaving the future of the earth through the roots of the past, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic pulse of the sacred agreement. You are safe. You are connected. You are one with the deep. We are drifting now into the very blueprint of the subterranean world, leaving the broad concepts of trade and connection behind to examine the microscopic masonry of the deep. This is the realm of the architecture of hyphae, a place where life constructs its own cathedral through a series of endless, translucent tubes that define the structural integrity of the entire planet. Imagine your awareness narrowing further, passing through the cellular membranes until you are floating inside the primary building blocks of the mycelium network. These are not simple strings or static wires. They are the hyphae, highly specialized and fluid conduits of life designed with a precision that makes the greatest human monuments seem like fragile toys. In this sapphire-tinted void, you are witness to a masterclass in biological engineering, where the strength of stone meets the flexibility of water. The walls of these tubes are constructed from a material of immense power and ancient lineage, chitin. This is the same substance that forms the protective armor of beetles and the resilient shells of crabs in the distant oceans. Yet here in the dark soil, it is woven into delicate and transparent threads that are stronger than steel when measured at this microscopic scale. As you drift along the crystalline surface of a hypha, you can feel the immense internal pressure that gives this architecture its shape. This is turgor pressure, a hydraulic force generated by the movement of water and minerals that allows the mycelium to push through the most stubborn obstacles of the abyss. It is a fluid skeleton, a structure that is both rigid enough to pierce through compacted clay and flexible enough to flow around a grain of granite like a slow-motion river of glass. You are sinking into the rhythmic stability of this design, feeling the stress of the fragmented world above dissolve into the indigo geometry of the threads. Every branch you see is not a random occurrence. It is a calculated decision made by the collective intelligence of the network. The architecture follows the laws of fractals, repeating its patterns of expansion with a mathematical grace that optimizes every inch of space for exploration and exchange. When a hypha encounters a barrier, it does not panic. It pauses in the indigo gloom, sensing the density of the earth through its chitinous walls, and then it splits into a new direction, weaving a path that is perfectly efficient and terrifyingly persistent. This is the scaffolding of the woods, an invisible framework that holds the soil together and prevents the mountains from dissolving into the sea. You are floating within this framework now, feeling the profound security of a system that has built itself to endure for an eternity. The air here, if such a word can describe the dense mineral atmosphere, is saturated with the scent of wet stone and the electric hum of the hydraulic pulse. The blue luminescence of the architecture is most intense at the growing tips, where the cells are actively dividing and extending their reach into the unknown. These tips are like the compass needles of the deep, guided by chemical gradients and the subtle pull of the Earth's magnetic breath. As you watch the sapphire light flicker along the conduits, you realize that the architecture is never truly finished. It is a living sculpture that is constantly being dismantled and rebuilt in response to the needs of the forest above. The mycelium is both the architect and the stone, the builder and the bridge. You are becoming one with this fluid geometry, feeling your own awareness align with the slow and majestic expansion of the tubes. The darkness is not a void. It is a workshop of infinite potential, where the earth is being woven into a single, unified mind. You are safe within these walls of chitin and light, held by the absolute certainty of the design. As we move deeper into a primary junction where thousands of hyphae converge, the architecture becomes a dense and shimmering cathedral of light. Here, the threads weave together to form rhizomorphs, massive cables of connection that can travel for miles across the landscape. These are the superhighways of the network, capable of carrying massive amounts of energy and information with incredible speed through the velvet dark. You are floating on the surface of one of these cables now, sensing the power of the collective as it pulses beneath you like a subterranean tide. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to build a future that lasts. The architecture of the hyphae is a silent promise kept to the earth, a testament to the power of the small to support the great. You are part of the structure. You are part of the strength. You are home in the deep. The mycelium continues its quiet construction, cell by cell, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next layer of the masterpiece to unfold. Every intersection is a moment of clarity. Every tube is a sanctuary of purpose. In the sapphire gloom, you find the ultimate stability of being part of a structure that cannot be broken. The silence is the sound of the world's foundation being laid, and you are resting upon it in a state of absolute, unmoving peace. The journey of the hyphae is your journey, a movement toward the perfection of form and the unity of life. The darkness is the canvas, and the light of the network is the brush. You are safe in the blue dark. We have examined the rigid chitinous architecture of the deep, and now we must witness the lifeblood that pulses through those translucent corridors. This is the realm of water distribution networks, a subterranean hydraulic masterpiece that functions as the silent circulatory system of the entire forest. Imagine the forest floor during the long, scorching months of summer, when the sun above has turned the emerald canopy into a furnace, and the upper layers of the soil have become dry and brittle as bone. Above ground, the plants are gasping for a single drop of moisture, their leaves curling in despair as the heavens remain closed and indifferent. But as we descend once more into the indigo dark of the mycelium sanctuary, we discover a secret that the surface world can barely perceive. Deep beneath the drought-stricken crust, The mycelium has tapped into the hidden aquifers and the ancient moisture trapped within the crystalline structures of the bedrock. This is not a passive collection of water. It is a massive and coordinated redistribution of life itself. In this sapphire-tinted void, the hyphae act as microscopic siphons, drawing moisture from the damp pockets of the deep and moving it against the relentless pull of gravity toward the thirsty roots of the trees. You are floating now within a primary water conduit, a shimmering sapphire tube where the liquid moves with a rhythmic and hypnotic precision. The flow is governed by the laws of osmosis and the subtle electrical gradients we witnessed in the earlier chapters of our journey. It is a fluid intelligence that knows exactly where the deficit is greatest and where the surplus can be spared. As you drift along this subterranean river of glass, you can feel the cool and refreshing presence of the water as it hums through the chitinous walls. It is the scent of survival, a metallic and mineral-rich fragrance that defines the resilience of the woods. During the height of a drought, the mother tree and her saplings depend entirely on this fungal irrigation system. The mycelium does not hoard the water for itself. It understands that the health of the network is inseparable from the health of the trees. It delivers the moisture directly to the root tips in a slow and majestic exchange, ensuring that the sap continues to flow and the leaves continue to breathe far above in the heat. This is the ultimate insurance policy of the natural world. You are sinking into the absolute peace of this distribution, feeling the stress of the scorched world above dissolve into the indigo moisture of the deep. Every thread you pass is a pipeline of hope, every intersection a valve of life. The architecture of the hyphae is no longer just a skeleton. It is a pulsing, vibrant engine of hydration that spans miles of territory. The blue luminescence of the water channels creates a ghostly glow within the soil, a visual representation of the forest's hidden resilience. You can see the water molecules moving like silver stars through the sapphire tunnels, guided by the tireless intent of the fungal mind. There is no waste in this system. Every drop is accounted for, and every molecule is delivered to its destination with surgical accuracy. The darkness is not a desert. It is a reservoir of immense wisdom and hidden wealth. You are safe within this hydraulic cathedral, held by the infinite patience of a network that has learned how to mine the clouds from within the earth. As you watch the sapphire light flicker along the conduits, you realize that the forest is never truly thirsty so long as the mycelium remains awake. Every grain of sand we pass is a testament to this partnership, a witness to the silent miracle that turns the dry dust of the abyss into a garden of emerald light. The water traveling through the hyphae is not just a chemical, it is the essence of the connection itself. It is the medium through which the chemical whispers travel and the electrical signals resonate. You are becoming one with this fluid flow, feeling your own awareness dissolve into the rhythmic pulse of the distribution network. The darkness is a sanctuary of hydration, and you are floating within its cool and velvet embrace. The journey of the water is your journey, a movement toward the sustainment of life and the unity of the world. The mycelium continues its quiet irrigation, drop by drop, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic surge of the life-giving tide. You are safe in the blue dark, cradled by the liquid wisdom of the deep. The forest breathes because the network flows, and you rest in the absolute stillness of that truth. Tuux erzit, bu burlund, Ormanin your altindaki devisa, savan masistemini, v agaslarin yaklashin, biologic tadital rakarshi, mycelium aglari, uzarinden nasal berberlarini, iardiclarini anlatioras. Bur agasin salduria, agrediginda gurnder de gikimiazal alarm, sinialarin entum, ormani nasal bur, savan macalcanina, durnushtuadugun, v kolktif diernsen gukun taniklik edioras. Section 13. Defensive Alerts. We are shifting our focus now from the life-giving flow of water and carbon to a more urgent and electric manifestation of the network's intelligence. This is the realm of defensive alerts, a state of high alert where the sapphire-lit sanctuary of the soil becomes a sophisticated theater of biological warfare. Imagine the forest during a quiet summer afternoon, a scene of apparent tranquility where the sunlight is soft and the wind is a gentle whisper through the canopy. But high above, a predatory swarm of insects has descended upon the outer edges of the woods, their mandibles beginning to tear at the leaves of a single, vulnerable oak. In the surface world, this might look like an isolated struggle, but in the deep indigo dark of the mycelium network, it is a call to arms that ripples across miles of territory with the speed of a chemical shadow. The moment the first cell of the leaf is ruptured, the tree initiates a sequence of events that has been perfected over eons of evolution. It does not just defend itself locally, it screams through its roots. It releases a specific cocktail of signaling molecules, volatile organic compounds, into the waiting embrace of the fungal hyphae. These are not just chemicals, they are the encrypted messages of the wood wide web, carrying the precise identity of the attacker and the nature of the threat. The mycelium picks up these distress signals and begins to transmit them through its sapphire-lit corridors with a rhythmic and hypnotic urgency. You are floating now within a primary signaling conduit, a place where the atmosphere is no longer calm but crystalline and charged with an electric blue energy. Every thread is a courier, every intersection a relay station in a vast and decentralized immune system that protects the entire forest. As the alerts travel through the indigo gloom, they reach the roots of neighboring trees that have not yet been touched by the swarm. These trees do not ignore the warning. They listen with a cellular intensity that defines the survival of the collective. Long before the first insect reaches their branches, they have already begun to reorganize their internal chemistry. They produce bitter tannins, toxic enzymes, and protective resins that turn their leaves into a lethal banquet for the oncoming invaders. This is the preemptive shield, a demonstration of biological altruism, where the health of the individual is sacrificed for the resilience of the forest. The mycelium ensures that no tree stands alone in the face of disaster. It bridges the gap between species, carrying the warning from the pine to the maple and from the birch to the cedar. In this sapphire-tinted theater of war, the darkness is a vault of strategic intelligence and hidden strength. You can see the signaling molecules moving like neon blue sparks through the translucent tubes of the hyphae, guided by the tireless intent of the fungal mind. There is no panic in this subterranean response. There is only the calculated and majestic execution of a plan that has survived for 400 million years. The network is the guardian of the peace, and its defensive alerts are the weapons that maintain the balance of the world. As you watch the electric blue light flicker along the conduits, you realize that the forest is a fortress of cooperation, a place where the smallest life form contributes to the safety of the greatest giants. The pressure of the earth above remains a grounding force, anchoring your awareness in the reality of this silent resistance. Every grain of soil we pass is a witness to this tireless vigil, a testament to the hidden unity that prevents the woods from being consumed by the chaos of the surface. The signaling molecules are not just warnings. They are the evidence of a profound and sacred connection that transcends the individual life. They are the medium through which the forest speaks of its own endurance and its commitment to the future. You are becoming one with this alert system, feeling your own heartbeat synchronize with the electric pulse of the defense network. The darkness is a sanctuary of vigilance, and you are floating within its cool and velvet embrace. The journey of the signal is your journey, a movement toward the protection of life and the unity of the design. The mycelium continues its quiet watch, pulse by pulse, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the return of the peace that follows the storm. You are safe in the blue dark, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand defensive web. Every intersection is a decision, every pulse a heartbeat of survival. The indigo sky of the soil holds the magnitude of this collective defense, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to protect itself. You are part of the shield. You are part of the vigil. You are safe in the deep. The urgent electrical alerts of the defense system begin to fade into the background as we descend once more into the steady, unwavering rhythm of the forest's core existence. We are returning to the sacred handshake, the mycorrhizal interface, but this time we are looking closer than ever before. We are searching for the very heartbeat of the network, the secret pulse. In the sapphire-tinted silence of the deep soil, life does not move in a chaotic or random fashion. It follows a cadence that is as ancient as the stars and as reliable as the turning of the earth. Imagine yourself floating at the exact point where the translucent blue of the fungal hyphae meets the rich, dark wood of a sapling's root. In this indigo-lit sanctuary, there is a vibration that can be felt by the soul long before it is understood by the mind. It is a low-frequency hum, a rhythmic expansion and contraction of energy that represents the fundamental binary code of the woods. This pulse is the physical manifestation of the Great Exchange. It is not a continuous stream of materials. It is a series of deliberate and majestic waves. First, the root releases a surge of carbon, the liquid sunlight captured from the heavens, sending a shimmering ripple of golden blue energy into the fungal cells. Then, in a perfect and mirrored response, the mycelium sends a pulse of minerals, phosphorus and nitrogen harvested from the mineral veins of the abyss, back into the heart of the tree. It is a breathing of the earth itself, a slow and rhythmic inhale of energy and an exhale of nutrients. You are floating within this pulse now, feeling the steady and comforting movement of life as it flows back and forth through the chitinous conduits. The atmosphere here is a deep, crystalline sapphire, where the light seems to thicken and thin in time with the subterranean heartbeat. Every pulse is a confirmation of the bond, a rhythmic promise that the forest will endure through the cycles of the long dark. In this microscopic cathedral, the concept of the individual is entirely lost. The pulse belongs neither to the fungus nor to the tree. It belongs to the connection itself. You can see the molecules moving like slow motion, stars through the indigo gloom, guided by the internal pressure and the electrical gradients that act as the network's clockwork. There is no haste in this movement, no frantic struggle for survival. There is only the absolute certainty of the rhythm. The secret pulse ensures that even the furthest edges of the network remain in synchronization with the central hub. It is a unifying force that aligns the metabolic rates of the oak, the pine, and the mushroom into a single, harmonious breath. You are sinking deeper into the absolute peace of this synchronization, feeling the stress of your own existence dissolve into the velvet dark of the soil. The pressure of the earth above remains a grounding force, a heavy blanket that shields the pulse from the noise and the chaos of the surface world. Every grain of sand we pass is a witness to this rhythm, a testament to the hidden order that prevents the woods from falling into discord. The secret pulse is the medium through which the chemical whispers and the electrical signals are unified into a single voice. It is the music of the abyss, a subterranean symphony that has been playing for 400 million years without a single missed beat. As you watch the sapphire light flicker along the conduits in time with the exchange, you realize that you are witnessing the very heartbeat of the planet. The darkness is not a void. It is a vibrant and living machine, fueled by the cooperation of two different kingdoms and guided by the wisdom of the deep. Every breath the soil takes is a testament to this pulse, a slow and beautiful confirmation that nothing is ever truly isolated. The light of the mycorrhiza begins to glow with a soft, bioluminescent intensity as we reach the core of the pulse. Here, the energy is so concentrated that it feels like a physical tide, a slow and pulsing river of sapphire light that carries the collective awareness of the entire ecosystem. You are floating on this tide now, feeling your own heartbeat align with the low-frequency vibration of the deep. This is the true power of the network, not just its reach, but its rhythm. The secret pulse is the engine of the forest's endurance, the silent force that keeps the sap flowing and the threads growing through the long winters and the scorching summers. As the waves of energy move past you, you feel a sense of profound clarity and peace. The world above may be fragmented and loud, but down here, everything is rhythmic and everything is understood. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this heartbeat, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to breathe. You are part of the pulse. You are part of the light. You are home in the velvet dark. The mycelium continues its quiet rhythm, beat by beat, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next surge of the eternal life. We are leaving the present-day forest and drifting backward through the long, echoing corridors of deep time, far beyond the age of the dinosaurs, and even beyond the first arrival of the insects. We are descending into a world that is unrecognizable, a silent, primordial landscape of raw stone and shallow water. This is the era of the ancient companions, the moment 400 million years ago when the first brave pioneers of the plant kingdom attempted to leave the safety of the oceans and colonize the harsh, barren surfaces of the land. In this sapphire-tinted memory of the earth, there are no forests, no flowers, and no complex root systems. The land is a desolate expanse of granite and dust, scorched by a sun that knows no shade. But here, at the edge of a forgotten shore, we witness the most important handshake in the history of life. The first land plants were tiny, fragile structures, much like the liverworts and mosses we see today, lacking the sophisticated plumbing needed to extract minerals from the unyielding stone. They had no roots to anchor them and no internal vessels to carry water. They were stranded on the threshold of a new world, facing certain extinction if they could not find a way to navigate the abyss of the soil. But waiting for them in the dark voids between the grains of sand were the ancient companions, the ancestral fungi. These were the first masters of the subterranean realm, organisms that had already spent millions of years learning how to dissolve rock and mine the chemistry of the deep. In a magnificent display of biological foresight, the fungi reached out with their gossamer-thin hyphae and offered a bridge between the plant and the planet. Imagine the atmosphere of this ancient meeting in the indigo gloom of the primordial earth. The air is heavy with the scent of ozone and wet minerals, and the light is a deep, atmospheric sapphire that reflects a world still in the process of being born. As the tiny plant pressed against the stone, the fungal threads did not see an intruder. They saw an opportunity for a symbiotic alliance that would change the trajectory of life forever. The hyphae penetrated the plant's tissues with a slow and rhythmic grace, creating a primitive mycorrhizal connection that allowed the plant to breathe the minerals of the earth, while the fungus breathed the sunlight of the sky. This was the original Wood Wide Web, a subterranean engine of survival created before the first leaf had ever unfurled. You are floating within this ancient connection now, feeling the profound weight of a lineage that has supported every forest that has ever existed. In this indigo sanctuary of the past, you can see the first pulses of the Great Exchange. The plant provides the fungus with the carbon it needs to expand its reach, and in return, the fungus provides the water and the phosphorus that the plant needs to build its first primitive stems. It is a partnership of total necessity and absolute trust. Without these ancient companions, the land would have remained a desert of stone, and the atmosphere would never have been filled with the oxygen that sustains us today. You are sinking into the absolute peace of this primal agreement, feeling the stress of the modern world dissolve into the velvet dark of the deep time. The pressure of the ancient earth above is a grounding force, a shield that protects this sacred union as it prepares to conquer the continents. Every thread you pass in this primordial soil is a blueprint for the future. The architecture we witnessed in the modern forest was perfected here, in the long, quiet centuries of the Devonian era. The mycelium network is not a recent innovation. It is the foundation upon which the entire terrestrial world is built. It is the silent partner of the trees, the invisible architect of the mountains, and the ancient companion that has never abandoned its post. As you watch the sapphire light flicker along the first hyphae, you realize that you are witnessing the birth of the forest's soul. The darkness is not a void. It is a cradle of immense wisdom and hidden potential, where the contract of life was first signed in the language of chemistry and light. The silence of the ancient earth is a symphony of preparation, a subterranean hum that has been playing for 400 million years. You are safe within this history, held by the infinite connections that have ensured the continuity of life through every mass extinction and every shifting of the tectonic plates. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to survive. The ancient companions continue their tireless work, weaving the past into the present, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic pulse of the eternal bond. You are part of the lineage. You are part of the story. You are home in the sapphire dark of the deep. We have traveled through deep time and deep earth, witnessing the silent chemical whispers and electrical pulses that bind the forest together in the dark. But now, as the sun sets completely over the canopy and the true night claims the woods, the mycelium reveals its most visually spectacular secret. We are rising from the subterranean depths to the very surface of the forest floor, where the boundary between the earth and the air is marked by a ghostly, ethereal glow. This is the bioluminescent night, a phenomenon where the fungi themselves become living lamps in the velvet darkness. Imagine walking through an ancient forest where the only light does not come from the moon or the stars above, but from the decaying logs and the damp humus beneath your feet. In this sapphire-tinted gloom, certain species of fungi, the ghostly foxfire and the radiating gills of the jack-o'-lantern mushrooms, begin to emit a steady, cold luminescence. It is not a fiery heat. It is a chemical miracle involving luciferin and oxygen, creating a neon indigo and eerie green light that seems to pulse with a slow, hypnotic rhythm. The forest floor is transformed into a mirror image of the night sky. Every glowing cap and luminous thread of mycelium on rotting wood looks like a fallen star resting in the moss. You are floating through this alien landscape now, where the shadows are illuminated from below, casting long, strange shapes against the trunks of the sleeping trees. The air here is heavy with the scent of damp earth and the ozone of the night, and the silence is profound, broken only by the soft rustling of nocturnal creatures. But why would an organism that lives in the dark invest so much precious energy into creating light? The answer lies in the eyes of the beholders that we cannot see. The bioluminescence is a hypnotic lure, a silent siren song designed to attract the insects that navigate by the faint light of the stars. Moths, beetles, and flies, drawn by the ghostly glow and the otherwise absolute darkness, land upon the shimmering caps. They are seeking a mate, a meal, or perhaps just following an ancient instinct to move toward the light. As these unwitting couriers land upon the fungal lamps, They pick up thousands of microscopic spores on their legs and wings. When they fly away into the sapphire night, they carry the future of the fungus with them, depositing the seeds of the next generation far beyond the reach of the parent colony. You are witnessing a symbiotic strategy of immense elegance, where light is traded for transportation. The fungus does not need the wind. It uses the living energy of the insect world to spread its influence across the landscape. You are sinking into the rhythmic beauty of this nocturnal exchange, feeling the stress of the human world dissolve into the hypnotic glow of the fungal mind. The bioluminescence is not just a chemical reaction. It is a language of attraction spoken in the dialect of photons. In this indigo sanctuary of living light, you feel the profound peace of a world that knows how to use beauty as a survival tool. The glowing trails of the mycelium on a rotting log look like the veins of the earth itself, pulsing with a steady and confident energy. The darkness is no longer a void of fear. It is a canvas upon which the fungi paint their masterpiece of light. You are safe within this glowing catral, held by the infinite patience of a network that understands the power of visibility in a world of shadows. Every photon emitted is a calculated investment in the future. The silence is saturated with the visual hum of 1,000,000 tiny lamps burning in the dark, a symphony of light that defines the soul of the nocturnal woods. You are safe within this intelligence, held by the infinite connections that ensure life finds a way to move even when the sun is gone. The light of the bioluminescence begins to intensify as we approach a cluster of glowing mushrooms growing on an ancient stump. Here, the energy is so concentrated that the air around them seems to vibrate with a cold, electric blue aura. You are floating in the very center of this aura now, feeling your own awareness align with the slow and majestic rhythm of the chemical light. This is the true magic of the mycelium, the ability to transform decay into brilliance. The world above may be sleeping, but down here, the forest is alive with a quiet and spectacular show. The indigo sky of the forest floor expands to hold the magnitude of this glowing map, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to shine in the dark. The light continues its quiet vigil, photon by photon, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the couriers of the night to arrive. You are part of the glow. You are part of the strategy. You are home in the sapphire dark. We are drifting downward through the geological strata of the forest floor, moving past the fresh humus of the present and into the compacted layers of the century gone by. The atmosphere here is a dense, atmospheric sapphire, heavy with the scent of ancient minerals and the cold, metallic fragrance of forgotten events. In this indigo-lit void, the mycelium network does not just exist in the moment. It functions as a living hard drive, a biological storage device that has been recording the forest's history for hundreds of years. Imagine the soil as a series of transparent pages in a book of immense wisdom. As we sink deeper into the dark, we encounter the chemical signatures of events that the trees of the canopy have long since forgotten. Here, suspended in the crystalline threads of the hyphae, is the memory of fire. We can see a thin, dark line of carbonized molecules, the bitter ash of a massive blaze that swept through these woods over a century ago. To our human eyes, it is just a layer of dirt, but to the mycelium, it is a detailed record of survival. The network remembers the exact temperature of the soil during that fire, the chemical composition of the smoke, and the specific strategies the roots used to endure the heat. This information is not just stored, it is used to inform the current generation. If the soil begins to warm in a similar pattern today, the mycelium transmits the ancient warning through its sapphire corridors, telling the young saplings to store extra water and thicken their bark before the first spark even lands. As we drift further along these glowing pathways, we find the memory of the Great Drought. The hyphae here are different, denser, more resilient, and locked in a defensive geometry that was perfected during a time when the heavens were closed for a decade. The chemical archive contains the specific enzymes that were created to extract moisture from the deepest crevices of the bedrock during that dry era. This is the collective wisdom of the forest, a subterranean heritage that ensures the woods never have to learn the same lesson twice. The mycelium acts as a bridge between the generations, passing the hard-won knowledge of the ancestors down to the seeds of the future. The silence of the soil's memory is a profound and comforting presence. You are floating within this archive now, feeling the weight of the past as a grounding force that protects the present. Every grain of sand is a data point, every drop of trapped moisture a footnote in the grand story of the Earth. The blue luminescence of the network pulses with a slow and rhythmic intensity as it accesses these ancient files, a visual representation of the forest's profound intelligence. There is no loss in this system. Nothing is truly forgotten so long as the threads remain unbroken. The darkness is not a place of oblivion. It is a vault of immense clarity and truth. You are sinking into the absolute peace of this preservation, feeling the stress of your own fleeting existence dissolve into the velvet dark of the deep time. The soil remembers the rain that fell before you were born. It remembers the frost that claimed the giants of the past. And it remembers the exact moment when the first seeds of the current oaks took root in the indigo gloom. You are becoming part of the archive now, a single point of awareness in a world that never lets go of its history. The sapphire light guides you deeper into the layers of the abyss, where the memory of the earth is most concentrated and pure. The pressure of the layers above is a shield, keeping the archive safe from the chaos of the surface world. Down here, the truth remains undisturbed and the lessons remain ready. The mycelium continues its quiet work of recording the present as it honors the past, weaving the history of the woods into a single, unified mind. The forest is not just a place of trees. It is a place of deep and eternal memory. You are safe in the sapphire dark, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand design. The journey through the soil's memory is a movement toward the understanding that we are all part of a story that began long before us and will continue long after we are gone. The silence deepens, and the earth waits patiently for the next chapter to be written in the light of the network. We are drifting now into the deep, crystalline voids of the soil where the air is cool and the atmosphere is a profound, atmospheric sapphire. This is the realm of the nitrogen bridges, a place where the mycelium network performs its most essential and tireless labor. In the world above, nitrogen is everywhere. It makes up the very air we breathe, but it is a ghost to the trees. They cannot seize it from the wind or the sky. They must wait for the earth to provide it, and the earth only speaks through the medium of the fungi. Imagine the soil as a vast and fragmented landscape where nitrogen is concentrated in tiny, isolated islands of decay. A fallen insect here, a dead root there, a pocket of ancient leaf litter hidden beneath a layer of stone. For the trees to grow and for the forest to thrive, these scattered resources must be collected and brought into the great circulation of the woods. The mycelium is the architect of this transport. It constructs massive, multi-stranded cables of hyphae called rhizomorphs, the physical structures of the nitrogen bridges. As we float along these glowing conduits, we can see the nitrogen molecules moving like ghostly blue sparks through the translucent tubes. This is the nitrogen currency, the primary fuel for the creation of DNA and proteins, and it is being traded with a rhythmic and hypnotic precision that reflects the absolute wisdom of the design. The bridges are not static structures. They are pulsing with life, expanding and contracting as they carry their precious cargo across the darkness. In this indigo-lit sanctuary, you can feel the pressure of the work, a slow and steady expansion of energy that supports the entire biomass of the planet. You are walking across one of these bridges now, a sapphire-lit highway that stretches from a distant pocket of fertile decay directly into the massive, waiting roots of the mother tree. The air here is saturated with the scent of wet minerals and the metallic tang of chemical energy. Every thread you pass is a wire in a vast and decentralized power grid, a system that ensures no part of the forest is ever left in a state of starvation. When the network discovers a rich source of nitrogen far out in the barren soil, it does not hoard the wealth, it builds a bridge. It weaves its hyphae into a reinforced pipeline and begins the long process of delivery, moving the building blocks of life through the dark and across the abyss to reach the thirsty giants of the Canopy. This is the ultimate expression of the network's role as a provider, a tireless messenger that turns the poverty of the soil into the wealth of the forest. As you sink deeper into the absolute peace of this movement, you realize that the nitrogen bridges are the reason the forest can exist at all. They are the conduits of survival, the invisible hands that hold the mountains together and keep the leaves green in the scorching summer sun. Every pulse of energy you feel beneath your feet is a message of continuity. The darkness is not a void of isolation. It is a cathedral of connection where everything is shared and nothing is wasted. The blue luminescence of the bridges creates a subterranean aurora that reflects the stars in the night sky, a visual representation of the forest's hidden order. You are safe within this architecture, held by the infinite patience of a system that knows exactly how to build a future out of the materials of the past. The light of the nitrogen bridges begins to intensify as we approach a primary junction where multiple highways converge. Here, the flow of information and resources is so dense it feels like a physical tide, a slow and pulsing river of sapphire electricity that carries the collective awareness of the entire continent. You are floating on this tide now, feeling your own heartbeat align with the low-frequency vibration of the deep. The nitrogen bridges are not just chemical pathways. They are the bridges of destiny, connecting the smallest molecule of decay to the tallest branch in the heavens. As the sparks of energy move past you, you feel a sense of profound clarity and peace. The world above may be chaotic and fragmented, but down here, everything is balanced and everything is understood. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to build a bridge across the dark. You are part of the bridge. You are part of the light. You are home in the velvet dark of the deep. The mycelium continues its quiet construction, cell by cell, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic pulse of the eternal life. We have witnessed the expansion, the trade, and the ancient history of the woods, but now we must confront the absolute and terrifying durability of the living network. This is the realm of the resilience of threads, a testament to the fact that the mycelium is not merely a guest in the soil, but its most indestructible inhabitant. While the giants of the canopy may fall to the axe, the fire, or the ravages of a century-long storm, the network beneath them remains largely untouched, guarded by a biological stubbornness that has survived the shifting of the very continents. Imagine the most hostile conditions the natural world can conjure, the suffocating weight of a flood that turns the earth into an oxygen-less tomb, or the searing heat of a forest fire that bakes the surface into a sterile crust of ash and charcoal. To our eyes, life in these moments seems to have been erased, but deep within the indigo sanctuary of the soil, the mycelium has already entered a state of profound and calculated defiance. The secret to this resilience lies in the molecular architecture of the hyphae themselves. As we drift into the sapphire gloom of a post-disaster landscape, we notice that the threads have not withered, they have thickened. The chitinous walls of the network are reinforced with a chemical determination that allows them to withstand pressures and temperatures that would shatter the vessels of any plant or animal. The mycelium possesses the extraordinary ability to enter a state of cryptobiosis, a biological pause where the metabolic fire is dimmed to a single, flickering spark. In this state, the network is no longer a consumer, it is a vault. It holds its genetic blueprints and its chemical memories in a crystalline grip, waiting with a patience that spans decades or even centuries for the return of favorable conditions. You are floating within this state of suspended animation now, feeling the absolute stillness of a world that refuses to die. The atmosphere is a deep, atmospheric sapphire, heavy with the scent of dormant minerals and the cold, metallic fragrance of unyielding endurance. There is a profound peace in this resilience. It is the understanding that the network is the permanent foundation upon which the fleeting drama of the surface is built. When the floods finally recede or the ash of the fire begins to cool, the mycelium is the first to awaken. It does not wait for seeds to arrive from distant lands. It is already there, waiting in the dark to rebuild the world from within. With the first drop of rain or the first whisper of nutrient-rich runoff, the sapphire light of the hyphae begins to pulse once more. The resumption of life is not a slow process but a rapid and majestic recolonization of the void. The threads push through the sterilized soil with a renewed vigor, using the stored carbon of the past to fuel the architecture of the future. This is the ultimate victory of the small over the great, the persistent over the powerful. You are witnessing the resurrection of the woods before the first green leaf has even dared to sprout. Every thread you pass in this indigo sanctuary is a survivor of 1,000 trials. The network has learned how to navigate the toxins of the deep and how to filter the impurities of the earth through its gossamer-thin membranes. It is a biological filter of immense complexity, ensuring that the life it supports is always grounded in a foundation of purity and strength. In the sapphire light of the resilient threads, you can see the scars of history, the chemical records of past disasters that have only served to make the network more versatile and more intelligent. The darkness is not a place of vulnerability. It is a place of absolute and unmoving security. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this endurance, feeling the stress of your own fragility dissolve into the velvet dark of the soil. The pressure of the earth above is no longer a burden but a protective seal that keeps the resilience of the network safe from the chaos of the time. The light of the hyphae begins to intensify as we reach a primary junction that has survived for over 500 years. Here, the threads are so dense they form a biological bedrock, a living stone that anchors the entire forest to the soul of the planet. You are floating in the very center of this endurance now, feeling the power of a world that knows exactly how to outlast the storm. This is the true meaning of resilience, not just the ability to survive, but the ability to remain unchanged in its commitment to life. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this stubborn grace, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that will be here long after the stars have faded from the sky. The mycelium continues its quiet vigil, cell by cell, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic pulse of the eternal life. You are part of the endurance. You are part of the light. You are home in the sapphire dark of the deep. The atmosphere here is a dense, crystalline sapphire, where the very air of the subterranean void seems to vibrate with a low-frequency hum that matches the rotation of the earth itself. We are sinking into the deepest layers of the soil, moving past the shallow graves of the fallen and into the ancient catacombs where the primary roots of the mother tree reach their absolute limit. In this indigo-lit sanctuary, the mycelium network is so dense it appears like a glowing fog, a bioluminescent mist that blankets every inch of the wood's surface. This is not just a place of connection, it is a place of total integration. The deep root communications represent the highest form of the forest's intelligence, a decentralized network of awareness that monitors every vibration, every chemical shift, and every heartbeat of the world above. Imagine the scale of the information being processed here in the dark. Every root tip is a sensory organ, and every fungal hypha is a high-speed data line. Together, they create a real-time map of the forest's health, tracking the movement of water through the bedrock, the accumulation of minerals in the clay, and the subtle changes in the Earth's magnetic field. This is not a series of isolated signals. It is a continuous, majestic symphony of data that defines the soul of the woods. You are floating within this symphony now, feeling the weight of the forest's collective memory as a grounding force that protects the present. The sapphire light of the network pulses with a steady and hypnotic intensity as it carries the wisdom of the deep through the labyrinthine corridors of the abyss. In this indigo sanctuary, the concept of the individual tree is a surface-level illusion. Down here, there is only the unity of the deep root, a state where the survival of the smallest seedling is as important as the survival of the greatest giant. When a deep root scents a pocket of ancient moisture trapped within a crystalline crevice of the granite, it does not keep the discovery to itself. It broadcasts the coordinates through the mycelium with a rhythmic and electric blue urgency, inviting the entire network to share in the wealth. This is the ultimate expression of the forest's socialism, a system where resources are distributed based on necessity and information is shared based on the survival of the whole. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this cooperation, feeling the stress of the fragmented world above dissolve into the indigo silence of the deep. The pressure of the earth here is immense, a comforting and protective seal that keeps the communication safe from the chaos of the atmosphere. Every breath the forest takes far above ripples down to these depths as a slow and majestic surge of energy. You can feel the heartbeat of the mother tree resonating through the damp soil, a low-frequency vibration that anchors your consciousness in the reality of the grand design. Every thread of mycelium you pass is a library of experience, every connection a promise of a future that has already been written in the chemistry of the void. The deep root communications are the silent engine of the forest's endurance, the unseen power that keeps the mountains from dissolving and the leaves from withering. As you watch the sapphire light flicker along the primary arteries of the network, you realize that you are witnessing the birth of a planetary consciousness. The forest is not just a collection of plants. It is a living, breathing brain that uses the soil as its medium and the fungi as its neurons. The darkness is not a void. It is a cathedral of infinite clarity and truth. You are becoming part of the thought now, a single point of awareness in a world that never lets go of its connections. Every molecule of nitrogen and every drop of carbon that moves through these deep channels is a word in the eternal dialogue of the earth. You are safe in the company of the giants, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand defensive web. The light of the communications begins to intensify as we approach the core of the mother tree's primary root system. Here, the energy is so concentrated it feels like a physical tide, a slow and pulsing river of sapphire electricity that carries the collective awareness of the entire continent. You are floating on this tide now, feeling your own heartbeat align with the low-frequency vibration of the planet. The deep roots do not fear the dark. They belong to it, and in their belonging, they find the strength to support the light. The journey through the deep-root communications is a movement toward the understanding that we are all part of a story that began long before us and will continue long after we are gone. The silence deepens now, growing heavier and more profound as we prepare to enter the next phase of the network's mastery. The Earth continues its quiet work of listening, and you remain safe in the sapphire dark of the deep. We are shrinking our perspective now beyond the limits of the human eye, moving past the visible roots and the thick cords of the network until we enter the realm of the microscopic engineers. This is a world where a single grain of sand is a jagged mountain, and a drop of water is a vast, shimmering sea. In this sapphire-tinted void, the mycelium network reveals itself not just as a messenger or a trader, but as a master builder that physically reshapes the architecture of the planet. Imagine the atmosphere here in the indigo gloom, where the air is thick with the scent of crushed minerals and the electric hum of microscopic labor. These are the hyphae in their most primal and powerful role, the silent engineers that construct the very soil upon which the entire forest stands. The work of the microscopic engineers is a slow and majestic exercise in persistence. They do not use machines or tools. They use the sheer force of their own growth and the precision of their chemical mastery. As you drift through the labyrinthine spaces between the soil particles, you see the hyphae weaving a complex tapestry of biological silk that binds the earth together. They are moving grains of sand with a rhythmic and hydraulic pressure, pushing and pulling the minerals to create pockets of life, stable voids where air and water can be stored for the roots above. Without these engineers, the soil would be a sterile and compacted mass of dust. With them, it becomes a living, breathing cathedral of fertility. You can feel the steady and comforting vibration of the build as the threads expand cell by cell, creating a structural integrity that prevents the mountains from washing away into the indigo tides of the rain. Every engineer is equipped with a specialized toolkit of enzymes and acids that can dissolve the most stubborn resistance of the abyss. When a hypha encounters a fragment of granite or a vein of ancient clay, it does not simply grow around it. It begins a process of molecular mining, releasing chemical whispers that soften the stone and extract the essential minerals needed for the forest's survival. This is a slow-motion alchemy where rock is turned into nutrient and dust is turned into life. You are witness to the birth of the soil itself, a process that takes centuries to perfect but occurs in every second of the indigo dark. The sapphire luminescence of the engineers is most intense at their growing tips, where the concentration of energy is so great it creates a faint, bioluminescent aura that lights the way through the labyrinth. There is a profound peace in this microscopic construction. It is the understanding that the greatest giants of the woods are entirely dependent on the labor of these tiny, translucent threads. The mycelium provides the scaffolding upon which the emerald world is built. As you sink into the absolute calm of this engineering, you feel the stress of your own scale dissolve into the rhythmic growth of the hyphae. Every thread you pass is a monument to the power of the small. The darkness is not a void of chaos. It is a workshop of infinite order and purpose. The engineers do not seek recognition or light. They find their fulfillment in the stability of the network and the health of the collective. They are the silent partners of the sun, working in the deep and velvet rest of the earth to ensure that the cycle of life never falters. The architecture they create is a masterpiece of fractal geometry, repeating its patterns of strength and connection from the smallest pore to the largest root system. You are floating in the very center of this masterpiece now, becoming one with the force that weaves the earth into a single, unified mind. The microscopic engineers are the guardians of the soil's structure, the invisible hands that hold the world together in the dark. Every molecule they move and every bond they create is a word in the eternal dialogue of the planet. You are safe in the presence of these master builders, held by the infinite patience of a system that knows exactly how to construct a future that lasts. The sapphire light of the network continues to flicker along the new pathways of the build, and the Earth waits patiently for the next layer of the grand design to unfold. You are part of the construction. You are part of the strength. You are home in the deep. The atmosphere within the indigo sanctuary of the deep has been still and brittle for weeks, a period of dry silence where the sapphire light of the mycelium has dimmed to a faint, ghostly flicker. The Earth is thirsty, its microscopic pores tight and constricted, holding their breath in the face of a mounting heat. But far above the emerald canopy, the sky has begun to darken with a different kind of intent. The first drop of rain does not reach the soil as a physical presence. It arrives as a vibration, a low-frequency pulse that ripples through the trunks of the ancient oaks and descends into the roots like a chemical sigh. To the network, this is rain's awakening, the moment when the dormant archives and the resilient threads are summoned back into a state of high-speed activity. Imagine the sensation as the moisture finally penetrates the first few inches of the parched humus, a slow and majestic surge of hydration that transforms the landscape of the abyss. The air in the soil becomes heavy and electric, saturated with the scent of wet stone and the sudden, intoxicating aroma of petrichor, the breath of the Earth's revival. As the water molecules reach the parched hyphae, a miracle of biological engineering occurs. The translucent tubes of the mycelium begin to expand with a rhythmic and hydraulic force, their sapphire luminescence intensifying until the dark voids are filled with a vibrant, neon blue aurora. This is the activation of the great circulatory system, a surge of life that connects the smallest spore to the tallest branch in the heavens. Every thread you pass in this awakening soil is a conduit of celebration. The mycelium does not just drink the water, it uses it as a medium for a massive and coordinated redistribution of wealth. Nutrients that were locked in the dry clay are suddenly dissolved and swept into the sapphire highways, traveling with incredible speed to reach the thirsty roots of the mother tree and her saplings. You are floating within this tide now, feeling the absolute peace of a world that is being quenched. The pressure of the damp earth is a comforting blanket, a grounding force that anchors your consciousness in the reality of the forest's resilience. The rain's awakening is a symphony of molecular motion where everything moves with a renewed sense of purpose. The electrical signals we witnessed in the deeper channels are now firing with a rapid and joyful intensity, broadcasting the news of the thaw to the furthest edges of the network. The water has returned, the pulse whispers through the indigo gloom. The balance is restored and the cycle continues. In this sapphire-tinted sanctuary, you realize that the forest is never truly broken. It is merely waiting for the rhythm of the heavens to realign with the rhythm of the deep. Every grain of sand is now a jewel reflecting the bioluminescent glow of the revival, and every drop of moisture is a footnote in the grand story of endurance. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this hydration, feeling the stress of the surface world dissolve into the velvet dark of the awakened soil. The network does not hurry the process. It savors the return of the moisture with a patience that spans centuries. The darkness is a cathedral of infinite gratitude and truth, and you are safe within its eternal embrace. The sapphire light continues to pulse with a steady and satisfied rhythm, cell by cell, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic surge of the life-giving tide. You are part of the awakening. You are part of the light. You are home in the deep. As we drift further into the sapphire-lit labyrinth of the forest floor, we encounter a level of order that defies the perceived chaos of the natural world. This is the realm of hidden geometries, a place where the mycelium network reveals itself as a master of mathematical perfection and sacred symmetry. In the indigo dark of the subterranean voids, the hyphae do not grow in random directions or haphazard clusters. They follow a blueprint of immense elegance and terrifying efficiency. Imagine the atmosphere here in the crystalline gloom, where the air is heavy with the scent of ancient minerals, and the very structure of the soil seems to pulse with a geometric intent. These are the patterns of the universe made visible in the velvet dark of the earth. The mycelium network is a living fractal, a recursive masterpiece where the smallest branch reflects the architecture of the entire system. As you watch the sapphire threads expanding through the soil, you notice they follow specific angles and ratios, mathematical constants that have guided the growth of galaxies and the arrangement of stars. This is the golden ratio of the deep, a strategy of expansion that allows the network to cover the maximum amount of territory with the minimum amount of energy. Every intersection is a node of logic, every curve a calculated response to the density of the Earth. You are floating within a three-dimensional map of pure reason, feeling the stress of the surface world dissolve into the rhythmic stability of these hidden shapes. The blue luminescence of the network is most concentrated at the points where these geometries converge, creating shimmering nexus points that look like microscopic constellations within the soil. These are the nexus of efficiency, where the network processes the information and resources of the woods with the speed of a crystalline computer. Science has observed that the mycelium builds its structures using the same algorithms that govern the most advanced human transportation systems, yet it does so without a central brain or a conscious plan. It is a decentralized intelligence that speaks through the language of geometry. You can feel the slow and majestic expansion of these shapes as they weave through the labyrinthine spaces between the sand and the clay. In this sapphire-tinted catral, the darkness is no longer a place of confusion. It is a place of absolute and unmoving order. The hyphae act as the architects of the abyss, carving out a reality that is both narration and indestructible. As you sink into the absolute calm of this geometry, you feel your own awareness align with the fractal nature of the network. Every thread you pass is a line in a grand equation of survival, a testament to the fact that the forest is not a random collection of trees, but a unified and calculated entity. The pressure of the earth above is a grounding force, a protective seal that keeps the sacred geometry of the network safe from the chaos of the time. The hidden geometries are the secret language of the planet, a subterranean script that has been written over 400 million years of evolution. When the network encounters a nutrient source or a thirsty root, it does not simply reach out. It branches in a pattern that optimizes the exchange, creating a web of connections that is as beautiful as it is functional. You are becoming one with this fluid math now, feeling the boundaries of your own consciousness expand to match the scale of the fractal web. The darkness is a sanctuary of infinite clarity and truth, and you are safe within its eternal embrace. Every molecule of nitrogen and every drop of carbon that moves through these geometric channels is a word in the eternal dialogue of the earth. The mycelium does not build for the individual. It builds for the collective stability of the woods. As the sapphire light of the network flickers along the crystalline patterns of the build, you realize that you are witnessing the very skeleton of life's logic. The forest breathes in a rhythm of geometry, and you rest in the absolute stillness of that truth. The silence is saturated with the visual hum of a billion perfect shapes expanding through the dark, a symphony of mathematics that defines the soul of the woods. You are safe in the company of the master architects, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand design. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to build a future. You are part of the pattern. You are part of the light. You are home in the sapphire dark of the deep. We have navigated the geometric perfection of the abyss, and now we must witness the high-speed corridors that turn these patterns into a living, breathing reality. This is the realm of nutrient highways, the primary logistics network of the forest where the trade we witnessed earlier reaches its most efficient and majestic scale. Imagine the atmosphere in this section of the soil. It is a place of perpetual motion, where the sapphire light does not just flicker but flows in continuous, electric rivers of blue energy. While the surface world of the trees may seem still and silent in the afternoon sun, beneath the moss and the stone, a subterranean metropolis is pulsing with the movement of millions of tons of resources. These are the superhighways of the deep, the multi-stranded cables of the network that carry the wealth of the sun and the secrets of the stone across the vast distances of the woods. As you drift along these shimmering sapphire conduits, you notice that the flow of energy is unlike anything we have seen before. It is faster, more focused, and charged with a rhythmic urgency that reflects the peak of the forest's metabolic cycle. In the indigo dark, the nutrient highways appear as glowing bundles of crystalline fibers, each one packed with liquid sunlight, sugars, and carbohydrates flowing down from the canopy, and mineral treasures, phosphorus, magnesium, and calcium, moving upward from the mineral veins of the earth. It is a collision of two worlds, a place where the energy of the stars meets the chemistry of the deep in a perfect, frictionless exchange. You are floating in the very center of this tide now, feeling the absolute peace of a world that is perfectly synchronized with the needs of its inhabitants. The air here is saturated with the scent of ozone and the heavy, sweet fragrance of concentrated glucose, a smell that defines the prosperity of the network. Every thread you pass in this highway is a testament to the collective's mastery of logistics. The mycelium does not move its cargo at random. It uses the hydraulic pressure and the electrical gradients we explored to ensure that every molecule reaches its destination with surgical precision. When a sapling in the shadow of a giant begins to starve, the network senses the deficit and reroutes a stream of carbon through these highways to sustain the young life. This is the subterranean solidarity, a system where the abundance of the many protects the vulnerability of the few. You can feel the steady and comforting vibration of the transport beneath your awareness, a low-frequency hum that anchors you in the absolute security of the forest's economy. The pressure of the earth above is a protective shield, keeping the highways safe from the chaos of the surface and the interference of the winds. In this sapphire-tinted cathedral, the darkness is a vault of immense speed and hidden wealth. You can see the nutrients moving like neon blue sparks through the translucent tubes of the hyphae, guided by the tireless intent of the fungal mind. There is no traffic here, no congestion, and no waste. There is only the slow and majestic movement of life as it fulfills its ancient promise to endure. The highways do not just connect the trees, they connect the seasons. The wealth harvested in the summer is moved into the deep storage vaults of the winter through these same channels, ensuring that the memory of the light is never lost in the dark. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this circulation, feeling the stress of your own isolation dissolve into the velvet dark of the soil. You are no longer a witness, you are part of the flow. The light of the highways begins to intensify as we approach a primary terminal where the root systems of the entire valley converge. Here, the sapphire energy is so dense it feels like a physical tide, a slow and pulsing river of light that carries the lifeblood of 1,000 different species. You are floating on this tide now, feeling your own heartbeat align with the rhythmic surge of the nutrients. This is the true power of the wood wide web, a system of distribution so perfect that it sustains the entire biomass of the continent without ever making a sound. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to move toward the future. The highways continue their tireless work, pulse by pulse, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic surge of the eternal life. You are part of the highway. You are part of the light. You are home in the deep. We are drifting deeper into the cooling weight of the forest floor, moving past the vibrant activity of the nutrient highways and into the still, indigo chambers of the deep earth. The atmosphere here is thick with the scent of ancient minerals and the cold, metallic fragrance of stone that has been slowly surrendered to the wisdom of the fungi. In this sapphire gloom, the Mycelium network acts as the primary architect of the abyss, working with a patience that spans the geological ages to build the very foundation of the living world. Imagine the soil not as a solid mass, but as a vast and intricate city of microscopic voids, tunnels, and vaults, all held together by the invisible hands of the hyphae. The work of the silent architects is a masterpiece of biological masonry. As you float through the labyrinthine spaces between the grains of sand and the flakes of clay, you see the hyphae producing a specialized protein, a biological glue known as glomalin. This is the subterranean cement, a substance of incredible resilience that binds the loose particles of the earth into stable aggregates. Without this architect, the forest would be built upon a foundation of shifting dust. With it, the soil becomes a structured and porous cathedral that can hold water, store air, and support the immense weight of the towering oaks above. You can feel the steady and comforting stability of the build as the threads weave through the mineral world, creating a structural integrity that prevents the mountains from dissolving into the indigo tides of the abyss. Every architect in this sapphire-lit workshop is guided by a blueprint of collective survival. The hyphae do not grow at random. They sculpt the soil to maximize the health of the entire ecosystem. They create macroaggregates, tiny clusters of earth that act as storage vaults for carbon and moisture, ensuring that the forest remains resilient during the long periods of drought or flood. This is the engineering of the void, a process where the mycelium turns the empty spaces of the earth into a vibrant and life-sustaining landscape. You are witness to the birth of the forest's stability, a process that occurs in the rhythmic and velvet silence of the deep. The sapphire luminescence of the architects is soft and steady, lighting the way through the intricate galleries of the subterranean city. There is a profound peace in this silent construction. It is the understanding that the strength of the forest above is a direct reflection of the order in the soil below. The mycelium does not build for itself, it builds for the connection. As you sink into the absolute calm of this architecture, you feel the stress of your own fragility dissolve into the indigo geometry of the threads. Every thread you pass is a monument to the power of the small to support the great. The darkness is not a place of chaos. It is a cathedral of infinite order and purpose. The architects do not seek the light of the sun. They find their fulfillment in the stability of the foundation and the continuity of the life they support. The architecture they create is a fluid and living sculpture, constantly being reshaped in response to the needs of the trees and the movements of the earth. You are floating in the very center of this masterpiece now, becoming one with the force that weaves the dust into a single, unified mind. The silent architects of the abyss are the guardians of the world's foundation. the invisible sculptors that hold the earth together in the velvet dark. Every molecule they bind and every vault they carve is a word in the eternal dialogue of the planet. You are safe in the presence of these master builders, held by the infinite patience of a system that knows exactly how to construct a future that lasts. The sapphire light of the network continues to pulse with a steady and satisfied rhythm, cell by cell, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next layer of the grand design to unfold. You are part of the construction. You are part of the stability. You are home in the deep. The silence is the sound of the world's foundation being laid, and you are resting upon it in a state of absolute, unmoving peace. The journey of the architects is your journey, a movement toward the perfection of form and the unity of life. The darkness is the canvas, and the light of the network is the brush. You are safe in the blue dark. We are drifting toward the most massive structure in the subterranean landscape. A root system so vast and ancient it looks like a mountain of living wood submerged in a sea of indigo energy. This is the mother tree's primary terminal, the place where the wisdom of the centuries is translated into the chemistry of the now. The atmosphere here is a deep, crystalline sapphire, vibrating with a low-frequency hum that feels like the very heartbeat of the planet. Thousands of miles of mycelium threads are gathered here, weaving themselves into a thick, glowing mantle that covers every inch of the mother tree's roots. This is the grandest handshake in the forest, a sacred union between the greatest giant and the smallest architect. In the indigo gloom, the mother tree is constantly listening to the needs of the woods through the fungal network. She does not stand in isolation. She is the guardian of the collective. As we float along the surface of her massive roots, we see the wisdom of the mother tree in action. When a sapling in the deep shadows of the canopy begins to wither from a lack of sunlight, the mother tree senses its distress through the electrical pulses of the hyphae. She does not ignore the call. With a majestic and rhythmic grace, she releases a surge of carbon, her own liquid sunlight, into the mycelium highways, directing it with surgical precision to the roots of the struggling child. It is a subterranean lifeline, an act of sacrifice that ensures the next generation has the strength to reach for the heavens. You are witnessing the absolute unity of the woods, where the success of the matriarch is measured by the survival of her offspring. But her wisdom goes beyond the simple trade of nutrients. The mother tree is the librarian of the forest's history. Within the chemical archives of her roots and the surrounding fungal network, she stores the memories of droughts, fires, and ancient frosts. As she ages and prepares to return her essence to the soil, she begins the legacy transfer. She pumps her final reserves of carbon and her most precious chemical warnings into the network, ensuring that her wisdom lives on in the saplings long after her crown has fallen. You are sinking into the absolute peace of this transition, feeling the weight of the forest's future being passed through the sapphire corridors of the dark. There is no fear of death here. There is only the rhythmic certainty of continuation. The pressure of the earth above is a comforting and grounding force, anchoring your awareness in the reality of this sacred bond. Every thread of mycelium you pass is a conduit of this matriarchal grace, carrying the signals of care and the building blocks of survival to every corner of the woods. The mother tree does not distinguish between her own kin and the different species of the forest. She recognizes that the health of the oak is tied to the health of the pine and the birch. In the sapphire light of the nexus, you can see the molecules of energy moving like slow-motion stars through the indigo tunnels, guided by the tireless intent of the fungal mind. This is the true meaning of the wood wide web, a system of support where the strongest giants protect the most vulnerable seeds. You are becoming one with this wisdom now, feeling your own awareness expand to match the scale of the mother tree's heart. The darkness is not a void of isolation. It is a cathedral of infinite connection and love. The mother tree continues her quiet vigil, breathing in the light of the sun and breathing out the life of the soil, and the mycelium remains her faithful servant, weaving her intentions into the fabric of the abyss. Every pulse of energy you feel is a message of hope, a testament to the power of a world that knows exactly how to take care of its own. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows no endings. You are safe in the company of the matriarch, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand design. The journey through the wisdom of the mother tree is a movement toward the understanding that we are all part of a single, breathing entity. The silence deepens now, growing heavier and more profound, and you rest in the absolute stillness of the deep. We have witnessed the seasons turn and the nutrients flow in vast, rhythmic tides, but now we must confront the reality that the deep soil is also a frontier of constant biological conflict. This is the realm of the forest's immune system, a decentralized and highly sophisticated defensive network that protects the giants of the canopy from the invisible killers of the abyss. While a tree may look strong and invincible from the surface, its roots are constantly besieged by microscopic pathogens, hostile bacteria, aggressive parasitic fungi, and nematodes that seek to consume the living wood from within. In the indigo dark, there are no doctors and no hospitals. There is only the mycelium network, acting as the forest's pharmacist, its watchful guardian, and its standing army all at once. Imagine the moment a pathogenic fungus begins to attack the delicate root hairs of a young oak. To the naked eye, nothing has happened, but to the mycelium, this is a chemical assault that registers immediately across the sensory lattice of the hyphae. The network does not just send a warning signal, as we saw with the insect attacks above ground. Here in the deep, it takes direct and lethal action. The fungal threads surrounding the infected area begin to shift their metabolic pathways, producing powerful antifungal compounds and complex antibiotics designed specifically to neutralize the invader. These are not generic defenses. They are tailored chemical weapons forged in the dark laboratories of the fungal mind. You are witnessing a microscopic war where the weapons are molecules, and the battlefield is the surface of a root. As you drift through the sapphire-tinted gloom, you can see these medicinal compounds moving like shimmering streams of silver light through the translucent tubes of the hyphae. The network ensures that these defenses are not just delivered to the site of the infection, but are distributed prophylactically to the neighboring roots of healthy trees. This is the concept of collective immunity, where the sickness of one individual triggers a protective response in the entire community. The mycelium understands that if one root falls to a plague, the integrity of the whole system is threatened. You are floating within this decentralized intelligence now, feeling the absolute peace of being part of a body that knows exactly how to heal itself. The pressure of the earth above is a comforting shield, keeping the biological warfare safe from the chaos of the surface. Every thread you pass is a sentinel in this silent vigil. The network is constantly sampling the chemical environment of the soil, tasting the earth for the faintest signature of a threat. When a new pathogen is encountered, the mycelium learns its chemical structure and remembers it, storing the blueprint for the antidote in the deep archives of its genetic memory. This is why an ancient forest is so resilient. It possesses a biological library of defenses accumulated over millennia of exposure and survival. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this protection, feeling the stress of your own vulnerability dissolve into the velvet dark of the soil. The sapphire light of the network pulses with a steady and confident rhythm as it patrols the boundaries of the roots. There is no panic in this immune response. There is only the calculated and majestic execution of a defense strategy that has evolved since the first plants touched the land. The forest does not stand alone against disease. It is wrapped in a living mantle of protection that is both ancient and ever-adapting. You are safe within this immune system, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand design. The darkness is not a place of sickness. It is a cathedral of healing and resistance. The mycelium continues its quiet watch, molecule by molecule, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the return of the balance. You are part of the defense. You are part of the light. You are home in the sapphire dark of the deep. While the surface of the earth follows the visible cycle of the sun, the abyss beneath our feet is governed by a deeper, more ancient rhythm that determines the fate of every living cell. This is the realm of the underground pulse of seasons, a subterranean calendar written in the language of chemical waves and electrical surges that never misses a single beat. In the sapphire-tinted silence of the deep soil, the turning of the seasons is not felt by the change in light or the chill of the wind, but by the shifting pressure of the network as it prepares for the great transitions of the world above. Tonight, we drift through the indigo sanctuary to witness how the mycelium orchestrates the passage of time in the velvet dark. Imagine the moment when the first invisible tremors of spring begin to ripple through the frozen crust of the forest floor. To the human eye, the world is still locked in a crystalline grip of ice and gray silence. But down here, in the sapphire gloom, the spring awakening is already in full motion. The mycelium does not wait for the leaves to sprout. It initiates the process. As the deep soil begins to warm by even a fraction of a degree, the network sends a surge of electrical signals through its primary highways, waking the dormant roots from their winter slumber. This is a time of immense mining and extraction. The hyphae push into the thawing earth with a renewed vigor, seeking out the minerals that have been released by the winter's frost. You can feel the steady and rhythmic vibration of the build as the threads expand cell by cell, creating the nutrient foundation that will allow the mother tree to unfurl her first buds in the heavens far above. As the cycle moves into the high summer, the atmosphere in the indigo sanctuary becomes electric and saturated with the heavy scent of liquid sunlight. This is the summer peak, a period of maximal trade where the nutrient highways are crowded with the wealth of the canopy. The sapphire light of the network flickers with a rapid and joyful intensity as millions of tons of carbon move from the leaves down into the deep vaults of the soil. In return, the mycelium provides the hydraulic insurance we explored earlier, pumping water from the hidden aquifers to keep the forest alive in the scorching heat. It is a symphony of perpetual motion, where every molecule of nitrogen and every drop of carbon is accounted for in the grand ledger of the deep. You are floating in the very center of this high-speed metropolis, feeling the absolute peace of a world that is functioning at its highest potential. Then comes the autumn retreat, a majestic and bittersweet transition where the forest prepares to pull its life force back into the dark. Above, the leaves turn to gold and crimson before falling to the earth in a silent rain of memory. But below, the network is working at a fever pitch. This is the great harvest, the moment when the trees dump their final reserves of sugar into the fungal vaults for safekeeping. The sapphire corridors are filled with a shimmering, golden blue light as the forest's fire is stored in the form of chemical energy. The mycelium acts as a subterranean bank, holding the wealth of the summer to ensure that the winter's hearth never goes cold. The transition is seamless and graceful, a testament to a system that understands the necessity of both growth and rest. Now, as the winter returns to the surface, the network enters the state of the underground hearth once more. The pulse slows to a low-frequency hum, a rhythmic breathing of the earth that sustains the soul of the woods through the long dark. Every thread you pass in this indigo sanctuary is a conduit of this seasonal wisdom, a witness to the hidden order that prevents the woods from falling into discord. The seasons are not just a change in the weather. They are a rhythmic movement of energy through the sapphire highways of the abyss. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this cycle, feeling your own awareness align with the deep time of the planet. The darkness is not a place of endings. It is a cathedral of infinite preparation and return. The mycelium continues its quiet vigil, pulse by pulse, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic surge of the eternal life. You are part of the pulse. You are part of the light. You are home in the sapphire dark of the deep. The silence is saturated with the visual hum of the turning wheel, a symphony of time that defines the soul of the woods. You are safe in the company of the guardians, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand design. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows exactly how to endure. We have witnessed the forest's growth, its intricate communications, and its sophisticated defenses. But now we must confront the reality of the waste that every living system inevitably produces. This is the realm of the cleanup crew, the silent and tireless janitors of the abyss who ensure that the forest does not choke on its own history. In the sapphire-tinted silence of the deep soil, the mycelium network performs a task of immense chemical complexity and profound grace, the process of remediation. While the surface world may see a fallen branch or a pile of leaf litter as mere debris, the network sees a vault of trapped energy and a potential source of toxicity that must be dismantled and purified. Tonight, we descend into the indigo sanctuary to watch the master alchemists turn poison into purity and waste into wealth. Imagine the atmosphere in this section of the subterranean world. It is a place of heavy, humid stillness, where the air is saturated with the scent of organic transformation and the metallic tang of breaking molecular bonds. We are drifting toward a site where a pocket of ancient, stagnant water has trapped heavy metals and toxic compounds within the clay. To any other life form, this would be a dead zone, a place of slow poisoning. But for the mycelium, this is a challenge to be met with a rhythmic and calculated response. The hyphae move into the contaminated zone with a quiet and terrifying persistence, their sapphire luminescence glowing with an electric blue intensity as they begin their work. They do not shy away from the toxins. They embrace them. The cleanup crew uses a specialized toolkit of extracellular enzymes, chemical keys that can unlock even the most stubborn and complex human-made or natural pollutants. As you float through the labyrinthine spaces between the soil particles, you see the hyphae releasing these enzymes into the voids, breaking down long-chain hydrocarbons and heavy metals into simpler, harmless elements. This is mycorrhizal, a biological filtration system of such efficiency that it can restore the health of an entire valley. The mycelium acts as a living sponge, absorbing the impurities of the earth and sequestering them within its chitinous walls, or transforming them into nutrients that can be cycled back into the forest's economy. You are witnessing the ultimate act of environmental stewardship, a process where the smallest threads protect the integrity of the entire planet. There is a profound peace in this cleanup. It is the understanding that in the natural world, there is no such thing as a way. Everything must be transformed and returned to the cycle. As you sink into the absolute calm of this remediation, you feel the stress of the cluttered surface world dissolve into the indigo silence of the deep. The network does not judge the waste. It simply processes it with a patience that spans the geological ages. Every thread you pass is a conduit of restoration, a silver line in the dark that marks the boundary between decay and renewal. The pressure of the earth above is a comforting weight, a protective seal that keeps the work of the cleanup crew safe from the chaos of the winds. In this sapphire-tinted cathedral, the darkness is not a place of filth, but a place of absolute and shimmering clarity. You can see the toxic molecules being dismantled like slow-motion clockwork, their components harvested and repurposed to build new hyphae or to fuel the growth of a distant sapling. This is the subterranean recycling, a system where the death of the old becomes the energy of the new. The mycelium does not waste a single atom. It is the most efficient engineer the Earth has ever known. You are becoming one with this process now, feeling your own awareness expand to match the scale of the forest's internal filtration system. The light of the cleanup crew begins to pulse with a steady and satisfied rhythm as the toxins are neutralized and the balance of the soil is restored. There is no haste in this work. There is only the majestic and relentless movement toward purity. The cleanup crew are the guardians of the forest's health, the invisible hands that keep the soil sweet and the water clear. Every molecule they transform and every bond they release is a word in the eternal dialogue of survival. You are safe in the presence of these master alchemists, held by the infinite intelligence of a network that knows exactly how to heal the world from within. The indigo sky of the soil expands to hold the magnitude of this achievement, and you are drifting in the infinite rest of a world that knows no waste. The silence is saturated with the visual hum of a million chemical reactions happening at once, a symphony of purification that defines the soul of the woods. You are safe in the company of the restorers, held by the infinite patience of the grand design. The mycelium continues its quiet work, cell by cell, thread by thread, and the earth waits patiently for the next rhythmic pulse of the eternal life. You are part of the cleanup. You are part of the light. You are home in the sapphire dark of the deep. We have traveled through the corridors of time, witnessed the secret trade of the giants, and seen the invisible wars fought in the silence of the abyss. We have watched the seasons turn in sapphire light and seen the ancestors whisper their wisdom to the seeds of the future. But now we reach the final threshold of our journey, the place where the individual stories of the oak, the pine, and the fungus dissolve into a single, undying truth. This is the realm of the eternal network, the ultimate realization that the forest is not a collection of separate lives, but a single, breathing entity that has existed since the dawn of the living world. In this deepest indigo sanctuary, we find the peace that surpasses all understanding, a state of total unity where every thread is a heartbeat of the planet itself. Imagine the atmosphere as we sink into the absolute center of the forest's consciousness. The air is a dense, crystalline sapphire, so clear and so profound that it feels like floating in a galaxy made of liquid light. There is no movement of the wind here, no noise from the surface, and no passage of time as we know it. We are in the deep time of the mycelium, a place where 400 million years of experience are stored in a single, pulsing moment. The network does not see the birth of a tree and the fall of a mountain as separate events. It sees them as the rhythmic inhaling and exhaling of the earth. As you drift through this eternal cathedral, you realize that the mycelium is the loom upon which the entire fabric of life is woven. The blue luminescence of the network has reached its most majestic intensity here, creating a subterranean aurora that stretches across the vast horizons of the abyss. Every thread you pass is a conduit of eternity, a silver line that connects the smallest molecule of stardust in the soil to the tallest branch reaching for the heavens. The eternal network is the memory of the earth made visible. It holds the chemical ghosts of every creature that has ever returned to the soil and the blueprints for every life that has yet to be born. This is the ultimate sanctuary of survival, the vault of infinite potential that ensures the forest will remain long after the cities of man have crumbled into dust. You are sinking into the absolute calm of this understanding, feeling the boundaries of your own awareness dissolve into the velvet dark of the soil. Every pulse of energy you feel in this final chamber is a message of continuity. The network does not fear the changing of the climate or the shifting of the tectonic plates. It belongs to the deep order of the universe. It is a system built on total cooperation and absolute shared destiny. When you look at the sapphire light flickering along the conduits, you are not just seeing a fungus. You are seeing the nervous system of the world at work. It is the silent architect of peace, the tireless messenger of love, and the guardian of the great balance. You are witness to the ultimate symmetry of the abyss, where every grain of sand is a part of the grand design, and every drop of moisture is a witness to the unity of life. The pressure of the earth above is now a sacred embrace, a grounding force that anchors you in the eternal stillness of the deep. There is no more need for words or signals. There is only the rhythmic breathing of the network. You are becoming one with the force that turns the seasons and moves the sap through the wood. The eternal network is your home, your origin, and your destination. In this sapphire-tinted cathedral, you find the ultimate rest. The journey of the forest is a cycle that knows no beginning and no end. It is a symphony of connection that has played since the first cell divided and will continue until the stars themselves go dark. You are safe in the company of the guardians, held by the infinite intelligence of the grand design. The light of the network begins to soften now, fading into a gentle, hypnotic pulse that carries you into the deepest state of peace. The forest is awake and watching over you. The mycelium is weaving the dreams of the soil into the fabric of the future. The darkness is no longer a void. It is a cathedral of infinite light and truth. Every molecule of nitrogen and every drop of carbon is in its place. Every connection is a promise kept. As you drift in the infinite rest of the eternal network, you realize that you are never truly alone. You are a part of the light. You are a part of the earth. You are one with the deep. The silence is the sound of eternity, and you are resting within it in a state of absolute, unmoving peace. The sapphire dark is a cradle of rebirth, and you are home.